Chapter 669. Lin Muyu let out a low growl, and rays of golden light gathered around her body. With a sudden shake of her arm, she immediately shook the Azure Frost Dragon's huge mouth open. This giant beast actually had a panicked expression at this moment. It seemed that although it was a beast, it was also intelligent. It knew that the person in front of it was not a mortal and could not be provoked at all. However, it was too late for it to regret now. It wanted to leave after acting tough, but there was no such thing as a free lunch. It had to pay the price with its life. This Azure Frost Dragon ate humans and livestock in the vicinity. Since Lin Muyu, the lower universe deity and Queen Qin of the Empire, had come, it was necessary for her to protect the people and get rid of the evil for the people. With a sudden turn of her body, Lin Muyu's fist contained golden divine power. She was still able to move freely in the water, and this heavy punch was aimed at the Azure Frost Dragon's head. Bang! With one punch, a total of 15 waves of divine power immediately blasted the Azure Frost Dragon into a daze. The scales on its forehead cracked, and blood sprayed into the pool. It was usually the one eating people, but now, there was a holy dragon behind it that was shamelessly eating the meat on its tail. Moreover, it was eating with great relish. As it ate, it waved its claws, and in the blink of an eye, the Azure Frost Dragon's tail was reduced to bones. It looked like a fish that had eaten half of its body. It was simply too cruel. Lin Muyu could not stand it anymore, so she simply gave it a quick death. She raised her iron fist and used the 2 luminaries' demonic dance. Bang! The 7 luminaries' profound energy was extremely domineering. Coupled with the 15 waves of divine power attack, the Azure Frost Dragon's eyeballs immediately burst open. Its skull was completely blasted open, and brain juice splattered everywhere. It died on the spot. A 2,000 years old spirit beast was considered a holy beast, yet it could not withstand 2 punches from Lin Muyu. However, the Crimson Crystal Dragon's gluttony was one of the main reasons why the Azure Frost Dragon died on the spot. It was as if it had not eaten for hundreds of years. Lin Muyu raised her hand and took out a spirit stone. It was a 2,000 frost spirit stone, not bad. She tossed it into her cosmos sack. It would be useful in the future. Then she saw the Azure Frost Dragon's beast spirit lingering in the depths of the lake. She could not waste it, she had to refine it. Lin Muyu had advanced from the Holy King realm to the Hierarch realm. Her 7 luminaries' fairy gourd and god-binding chains had also advanced to the 12th level. She had not had the chance to refine any beast spirit, but now the chance had finally come. Standing in the lake, she took out the refining cauldron in the form of energy and began to refine the beast spirit. Lin Muyu's cultivation was no longer the same as before. Especially after absorbing the essence of the red spider lilies in the past half a month, the capacity of her sea of qi had expanded by at least 5 times. Her absorption of spiritual power had also greatly increased. In less than half an hour, she had completely refined the Azure Frost Dragon's beast spirit. The skills she obtained were the same. Both of her martial souls had gained the ability to enhance the power of frost. It was probably the attack of the martial soul would make the opponent feel cold and refreshing. After the refinement, she let out a sigh of relief. A pure spiritual power automatically transformed into supreme divine power in Lin Muyu's body. It was as if she had enjoyed a big meal. The fatigue brought about by half a month of sleepless cultivation was swept away. However, Icatosaurus was still eating. It had already crazily eaten the body of the Azure Frost Dragon, which was twice its size. It did not look like it had been starving for hundreds of years, but more like it had been starving for 10,000 years. Last time, Icatosaurus had brought Lin Muyu a medieval knight's sword with abundant spiritual power, so Lin Muyu did not know which dimension this guy was in for the time being. However, one thing was for sure. The food in that dimension must be scarce. Otherwise, Icatosaurus would not have eaten like a hungry ghost without any dignity as a holy dragon. After waiting for a long time, Icatosaurus finally miraculously turned the Azure Frost Dragon into a skeleton. The skeleton glowed with a faint spiritual power. It seemed that this Azure Frost Dragon had indeed absorbed and refined a lot of spiritual power over the years. This kind of spiritual power was very beneficial to human cultivation, especially for those with lower cultivation. Cultivators below the sanctuary realm needed this kind of spiritual power the most. The spiritual power contained in the Azure Frost Dragon skeleton was not inferior to Tao Wu's meat at all. Therefore, Lin Muyu had an idea. She could not waste it. She would bring the skeleton back to the camp and use it to make soup for Sidu Shui, Wei Chou, Bai Yin, and the others. It would be best for these subordinates to step into the sanctuary realm as soon as possible. After all, the sanctuary realm could preserve their youthful looks. Otherwise, it would be too depressing to see Wei Chou and Situ Shui turn into little old men or old women. Are you full? Lin Muyu waited for Acatosaurus. The little dragon burped and rubbed its big head on its master's shoulder. Lin Muyu also noticed that there was a scar on Acatosaurus's foreleg. It seemed to be at least 10 centimeters deep. It was very frightening. The area around the wound was burnt black, but it was recovering rapidly with the powerful vitality of the dragon race. Lin Muyu immediately frowned. What could have caused such a burn to Acatosaurus? Sidu-san was silent for a moment. A few seconds later, he clenched his fist and said, Motherf asterisk Ker, he doesn't care about the big picture at all. How can such a person be King Qin? I support removing him. Wei Chou looked at him from afar. Shameless villain, a wise man submits to circumstances. Shameless your mother. Just when the situation was about to get out of control, there was a sudden bang outside the tent. A heavy object landed on the ground, followed by the howl of Acatosaurus. Chu Yao's eyes lit up. She smiled and said, You is back. Everyone rushed out of the tent. Sure enough, Lin Muyu was standing in the air with Acatosaurus. On the ground was a huge dragon skeleton. Other than the flesh and the skull, the rest of the body had been gnawed clean. This? Sidu Shui looked at the huge skeleton and couldn't help but open her mouth. She asked, What is this? Your Highness, why did you only come back now? Do you know how worried we were? You're too unreliable. Lin Muyu stared at her and said indifferently, This dragon bone is the bone of a 22,000 years old Azure Frost Dragon. It's rich in spiritual energy. If you boil it into soup and drink it, it can increase your cultivation. It can greatly increase Shui's cultivation, and you can even step into the saint realm very quickly. You will always look young and beautiful. What did you say just now? Sidu Shui blushed. I said that Your Highness loves me the most. Thank you, Your Highness. I like you the most. Sidu Sen and Wei Chou showed a look of disdain. They then asked in unison, Your Highness, do we have a share of this bone soup? Captaincy and the others have a share. Your Highness is wise and mighty. You will unify the world. Chu Chu looked at Lin Muyu, who was in the air. His eyes were deep and his aura was calm. He smiled and said, Your cultivation seems to have improved a lot. How many grotto heavens have you cultivated? I just reached the 15th grotto heavens. Lin Muyu said with some regret. Isn't it too slow? It's not slow. Chu Chu praised. Very good. Ouyang Yen stood there in a daze. Her heart was filled with a myriad of emotions. This freak actually broke through to the 4th heaven realm in a short period of half a month. If this was considered slow, then the gods of the heaven realm should commit suicide out of guilt. Are you confident in fighting Yang Li tomorrow? Ouyang Yen asked. If you and Chu can both win, then I'm confident. Lin Muyu smiled playfully. Otherwise, I can only act shamelessly. Chapter 670. Late at night, the thorny forest in the northwest of Tongtian City was very quiet. The birds had stopped flying, the cicadas had fallen asleep after eating the dew on the tree bark, and the fireflies were flying up and down in the forest. It was so quiet that one could almost hear the sound of the fireflies' wings flapping. A few gray wolves were searching the forest in vain. After hunting in the middle of the night, they didn't even get a single prey. They were destined to spend the next few days hungry. Swoosh! A young man in a dark cyan outfit with a quaint longsword on his back swept past the treetops. His eyes were looking around the forest. Suddenly, his eyes lit up, and he stopped falling from the sky. He stared at a fungus on a withered tree trunk. dragon's tongue, one of the necessary ingredients to make the poison drunk in the breeze. With a flick of her palm, a wind blade cut open the root of the dragon's tongue. Lin Muyu carefully wrapped the dragon's tongue in a piece of cloth. In this way, all the ingredients were ready. Chu Chu's voice was heard from afar. Lin Muyu immediately increased her breath a little. Half a minute later, Chu Chu flew over. He was wearing a white robe, and he looked like an immortal who was collecting the Reiki of heaven and earth at night. How is it? Did you find it? Yes. Lin Muyu waved the cloth in her hand and said with a smile, a big dragon's tongue is enough to make more than 20 bottles of drunk in the breeze. Chu, did you find the ingredients for the concentrating spirit drug? Chu Chu patted the bamboo basket on his waist and said with a smile, let's go back. At this time, a few gray wolves crept over from afar, looking at the two with hungry and greedy eyes. These gray wolves didn't even know that these two were not mortals, but gods. I'll take care of these beasts. Lin Muyu raised her hand, and a beam of light from the dragon crystal flowed in her palm. No need. Chu Chu smiled and said, all living beings are living beings, there's no need to kill. I'll scare them away. With that said, Chu Chu opened his sleeves, and a fierce wind started to blow. The roars of dragons and tigers could be faintly heard. Nature was very mysterious. Even though the wolves had never seen a dragon or tiger, they could still feel the majestic might of a king. They couldn't help but retreat with their tails between their legs, and in the blink of an eye, they disappeared into the forest. Lin Muyu smiled. Chu is indeed compassionate. Compassionate heart. Chu Chu couldn't help laughing. What compassionate heart? It's just that all living beings are equal. Even the strongest and strongest people can't escape the cycle of reincarnation. There will be karma for killing sooner or later. On the other hand, you've been fighting wars all year round, and you're already used to death. You don't care about how many souls die in your hands, do you? Lin Muyu was startled. She took a deep breath and said, I don't know either, but since the war between the Iha nation and the empire, I've started killing. Brother Chu and Brother Qin Lei are both dead. Once I release my killing intent, I can't hold it back anymore. I only hope that I can really stop the war and let the world return to peace. What happens after peace is restored? What can you, the invincible king of Qin, do? Ha! Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed under Chu Chu's gaze. She said, I don't know, but I'll bring Xiao Yin and Xiao Shi back. Maybe they'll live like Chu, living a carefree and happy life like Xiao Yao. Chu Chu revealed a gratified smile and said, this is the most valuable thing about you. You can't hold back your killing intent, but you can still control your ambition and desire. If everyone in the world is like you, there will be no war and killing. Yes. Lin Muyu slowly rose up and flew away with Chu Chu side by side. However, she was thinking about all the things that had happened over the years. Qin Yi wanted to be the emperor, so he started the War of the Iha nation. This war lasted for 5 years. Meanwhile, the demon emperor wanted to unify the continent and reoccupy the territory that belonged to humans, so he started the invasion of the demon race. This war had not ended until now. All the wars were caused by greed and the desire to conquer. Just like what Chu Chu said, if Qin Yi and the demon emperor weren't so greedy and didn't want to be the most supreme in the world, the Shattered Cauldron world wouldn't have lasted for nearly 10 years. The next morning, 1,000 elite soldiers of the Longdan army camp formed a formation and escorted Lin Muyu, Chu Chu, Chu Yao, and the others to the White Sand Slope. At the same time, they also brought along 500 soldiers of the Heavy Artillery Battalion, which carried 10 heavy magic crystal cannons. The magic crystal cannons took a long time to calibrate, so they couldn't hit a flying god state expert. However, they could still be used as a deterrent. Moreover, Lin Muyu had other uses. The treading on snow warhorse constantly snorted. Lin Muyu held the reins with one hand and stretched out the other. Qin Yu, who had already fully grown wings, jumped up and down on the wrist guard, chirping happily. Qin Yu, go to the White Sand Slope and see if the demon race has arrived. Qin Yu spread his wings and soared into the sky. This green swan was already able to form a connection with Lin Muyu's soul, but it was still very weak. After all, it was still too small and couldn't withstand the spiritual sense produced by Lin Muyu's powerful supreme godhead. Sidu Shui chuckled at the side. Your Highness, is this green swan particularly obedient? Is it human-like? Lin Muyu said, it's more reliable than ordinary messenger birds, and it flies much faster. And it's very strange, I have a feeling that I've seen it somewhere before. There's a very strong fluctuation of psychic power. Ouyang Yen chuckled, you're a god, so you can sense the prayers and beliefs of all living beings. Maybe you've seen this green swan somewhere before. Chu Chu, who was standing on the side, remained silent. They arrived at the white sand slope before noon. The demon army had already arrived. Half of the 1,000 people were armor demons, and the rest were high-level elite soldiers of the demon race. Moreover, in the distant sky, there was a huge dragon swimming in the clouds. It was a giant flying snake. Sure enough, the demon race didn't have good intentions at all. Yang Li was still wearing the armor of the Northern Heaven Realm. This kind of armor was called the godly armor. The mark on the surface was dense, and it was obviously engraved. However, it was only a level 5 engraving, which was not a treasure. Even Lin Muyu didn't like it at all. If this level of armor was worthy of being called a godly armor, then wouldn't she be called a divine craftsman? Your Highness Prince Qin. Qianfeng, with a sword hanging on his waist, walked forward and cupped his fists with a smile. How have you been? Thank you, Marshal Qianfeng, for your concern. Lin Muyu cupped her fists in return and said, today, Marshal Qianfeng will also be competing in martial arts. Be careful. After all, there were 2 god state rankers on their side. One was Chu Chu, and the other was Ouyang Yen. Both of them were quite strong. If Qianfeng met them, he might not be able to take advantage of them. If there were no rules, Qianfeng might even be killed. Chu Chu's 30 waves and Ouyang Yan's new heavenly Dao lattice were not simple. Qianfeng squinted his eyes and carefully pondered over the meaning behind Lin Muyu's words. He smiled and said, I can naturally avoid danger, but Your Highness Prince Qin, you must be careful. I know, thank you. Lin Muyu nodded. The 2 of them turned around and walked in opposite directions. It could be considered that they had bid farewell to each other. Qianfeng's words had a deeper meaning. He reminded Lin Muyu to be careful. In fact, Qianfeng knew that Yang Li wanted to snatch Lin Muyu's godhead. Therefore, he would rather lose than see Lin Muyu killed by Yang Li. After all, they had been rivals for so many years. Not only did Qianfeng hate Lin Muyu, he also admired her. It would be a pity if such a fated rival died in the hands of a despicable god from the heaven realm. Dong, 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 the war drums thundered. The first battle was about to begin. Both sides made way for the center of the battlefield. The area within 100 meters became the battlefield. However, it didn't seem to be big enough. After all, there would be gods in this battle. Lin Muyu looked into the distance. The soldiers behind the Demon Emperor and Saint Master were all wearing shields, and the shields were crimson in color. They were probably bell-sucking rocks. Had they already decided to kill all the deity-level experts on their side? The demon race's plan was very simple. They wanted to use Yang Li's extraordinary strength to defeat Lin Muyu, Chu Chu, and the others. They would be invincible. Tang Xiaoxi was wearing a pomegranate red and milky white dress. It outlined her graceful figure. She held a long whip in her hand. It was the national suppressing whip, a gift from Lin Muyu. No. Lin Muyu couldn't help but frown. Tang Xiaoxi didn't use her weapon when she was about to fight last time. Why did she take out the national suppressing whip this time? Could it be, from afar, Tang Xiaoxi was also looking at Lin Muyu? However, there was no emotion in her beautiful eyes. Lin Muyu couldn't read anything. Let the battle begin. The Demon King raised his arm and said in a majestic voice, in the first round, the divine race will go first. Marshal Qianfeng will fight. Lin Muyu clenched her fists and said, we must win the first battle. Yang Yen, you go. Ouyang Yen floated away and stood on the empty ground empty-handed. She bowed to Qianfeng and said with a smile, Marshal Qianfeng, I didn't expect that we would meet again here. Qianfeng narrowed his eyes and said, I thought Goddess Ouyang would be used by our god race. I didn't expect you to betray us and become the Empire's dog." Ouyang Yen thought of the humiliation she suffered in Demon Lock Valley and couldn't help but blush. Her eyes were full of killing intent as she shouted, "Qianfeng, why are you talking so much nonsense? Let's fight and determine the winner." Qianfeng pulled out his sword and pointed it at Ouyang Yen. He turned his wrist and brandished the sword. His Grandmaster demonic power lingered around his arm and golden divine power surged out of his body. He smiled and said, "Then come." Hong! Ouyang Yen blasted out a palm attack mercilessly. The raging flames rose and engulfed more than half of the battlefield in the blink of an eye. The people on the periphery couldn't see what was happening inside. The sword light kept flying and pierced through the flame barrier formed by Ouyang Yen. It proved that Qianfeng was resisting this ultimate god expert. Chapter 671. The battlefield between the two of them had unexpectedly condensed into a storm, which caused everyone to be dumbfounded. They couldn't even clearly see the specific moves that were exchanged between them. Ouyang Yan's moves were magnificent and powerful. Raging Flame Palm, Flaming Shield, Falling Phoenix Strike, Blazing Fire Art, and other secret skills bombarded indiscriminately without holding anything back. Clearly, the Devil King's expression wasn't too good. The last time he caught Ouyang Yen, it was because her godhead was incomplete, but this time, Ouyang Yen actually had a complete godhead. Moreover, her foundation was at the God King realm. With a single move, it was obvious that she was no longer the same as before. "I'm afraid Marshal Qianfeng is in danger," the sage said faintly. The Demon King didn't say anything. On the other hand, Hierarch Desolation held his battle axe and smiled. "Your so-called Divine Clan's marshal doesn't seem to be much. Interesting. Qianfeng has stepped into the Divine Realm and can be considered as a god from the lower realm. But his Grotto Heaven cultivation is only at the 5th Grotto Heaven realm. What a joke. Such a god would be laughed at in the Heaven realm." The Demon King frowned, but he couldn't refute it. Just as Desolation said, Qianfeng's cultivation was already considered outstanding among the Demon Clan. But in the Heaven realm, there were many people who were more talented than Qianfeng. In terms of cultivation, Qianfeng's strength could be counted with one's fingers in the Shattered Cauldron realm. But in the Heaven realm, he would only be considered as a weakling. Yang Li's face was full of a careless smile. He didn't care about the outcome of this battle at all. He only had one goal, which was Lin Muyu. As long as he defeated Lin Muyu and extracted his sovereign godhead, his life would undergo a huge change. Thinking of this, Yang Li couldn't help but reveal a proud expression. The sovereign godhead was a treasure that everyone in the 3 realms yearned for. If he really obtained it, why would he need to return to the Northern Heaven realm? He could find an unknown place to cultivate for 10,000 years and become a sovereign god. It wouldn't be a problem for him to destroy the entire Northern Heaven realm. At that time, he could become the Divine Emperor himself. Why would he need to rely on others? On the Empire's side, Chu Yao, Sidu Shui, Sidu Sen and the others clenched their fists. No one knew if Ouyang Yen was a match for Qianfeng. After all, Qianfeng was one of the strongest experts in the Demon Clan. He had stepped into the Divine Realm at such a young age. If the twin walls of the Empire were Chu Chu and Lei Hong, then the human would be Lin Muyu and Qianfeng would be the demon. Among the crowd, only Lin Muyu and Chu Chu were calm. From the moment Ouyang Yen entered the arena, Lin Muyu knew that Ouyang Yen would definitely win. Although they were both God Realm experts, Qianfeng could only launch 5 waves of God's Wave while Ouyang Yen could launch 27 waves. When the two of them fought, the difference in strength between each attack was like heaven and earth. No matter how good Qianfeng's comprehension was, he would definitely not be a match for Ouyang Yen. Sure enough, just as Lin Muyu expected, Ouyang Yen was her trump card. After a quarter of an hour, the flames seemed to tear the space apart. With an explosive sound, Qianfeng's body flew out of the battle circle. Many parts of his body were burnt black and half of his armor had melted. He was in a sorry state. Blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Panting heavily, he cupped his hands towards Ouyang Yen and said, "I lost." Thank you for letting me win. Ouyang Yen floated back to Lin Muyu's side as if nothing had happened. She smiled and said, Your Highness, I won. How do you plan to reward me? Lin Muyu smiled and asked, What do you want? Give me your 22,000 Azure Frost Dragon Spirit Stone, how about that? Why do you want the Frost Law Spirit Stone? You cultivate fire. Yes, but after refining conflicting spirit stones, the spirit energy will be absorbed as well. All right, I'll give it to you. And, thank you, Your Highness. At this time, Lin Muyu walked to Chu Yao's side and smiled softly. Sister Chu Yao, you take the second round. You don't need to use force, you can just admit defeat. Don't worry, I will support you. But Wei Chou raised his arm and shouted, The second round, the Empire's Spiritual Medicine Department's Grand Deacon Chu Yao. On the demon side, everyone was silent. Finally, the Demon King smiled and said, The Empire's Spiritual Medicine Department's Grand Deacon? Xiao Shi, you used to live in Lanyan City, you should know this Chu Yao. Go, you will fight this round. His father. Tang Xiaoxi nodded respectfully and walked over with the nation-suppressing whip. Chu Yao was taken aback and said, Xiao Shi, you want to fight me? Why not? Tang Xiaoxi's golden eyes were emotionless as she said, I don't know you, I will fight you. Be careful. Chu Yao frowned as if she thought of something and said, All right. Buzz. Astral power gathered at her fingertips, and Chu Yao's star-plucking finger let out a shrill sound, just like when Chu Huaying attacked. A disdainful smile appeared on Tang Xiaoxi's face, and she suddenly rushed forward. The power of her flames surged and broke through the spatial barrier. Just as Chu Yao was about to unleash 3 star-plucking fingers, Tang Xiaoxi suddenly disappeared. She had broken through the magnetic field created by the bell-sucking rock and shattered the spatial barrier. In the next instant, she appeared behind Chu Yao, and the nation-suppressing whip turned into a bolt of lightning and lashed out at Chu Yao's back. There was a huge disparity in power between the two sides, and there was no way Chu Yao could withstand the power of a god-state powerful being like Tang Xiaoxi. She let out a muffled groan, and her battle armor was shattered, and a frightening bloody gash appeared on the back of her white robe. Die! Tang Xiaoxi opened her palm, and it was a god's seal. She was going to kill Chu Yao. Xiao Shi. Lin Muyu was completely petrified upon seeing this, and she appeared on the platform in a flash. She raised her iron fist, and ice and frost swirled around her fist before crashing into Tang Xiaoxi's palm, forcibly halting the god's seal attack. A scorching sensation erupted from her arm, and Lin Muyu stumbled back several steps in retreat. Tang Xiaoxi was simply too powerful. Tang Xiaoxi was also hurtling through the air as she looked down at the bruise on her palm. Lin Muyu's punch appeared to be quite simple, but it had unleashed 15 tidal waves in the instant of contact, and it definitely wasn't an easy one to deal with. We've lost. Lin Muyu said in an indifferent voice, Xiao Shi, we've lost this battle, so there's no need for us to continue. He really couldn't bear to see Tang Xiaoxi kill someone close to her. That would only make her feel even more guilty and pained after the restriction was lifted. Sister Chu Yao, are you all right? I'm fine. Chu Yao's eyes were red, and she walked back to the group with the help of Lin Muyu. She didn't expect Tang Xiaoxi to be so heartless, and even more so, she didn't think that she would want to kill her without any hesitation. Chu sighed, and didn't say a word. It was a very painful thing to have one's soul occupied, and Tang Xiaoxi was bearing all of this right now. The Saint Teacher was nearby, and his control over Tang Xiaoxi's soul would be even stronger. As long as the Saint Teacher didn't die, Tang Xiaoxi wouldn't be able to completely remove the mind-manipulating spell. 1 win and 1 loss. Lin Muyu said in an indifferent voice. Seducen said, I still have 1 loss. Whether it's the Saint Teacher or the Demon Emperor, I can't beat them. Yes, but you still have to go to the arena. Yes. The Demon King was personally sent out to fight. After taking off his dragon robe, the Demon King wore an exquisite scarlet soft armor underneath. He didn't use any weapons. His palms were his weapons. The Demon King cultivated sinister demonic arts, so he didn't need to rely on any weapons. Standing in the middle of the yellow sand, the Demon King smiled faintly and said, In this battle, Let this emperor personally meet the heroes of the empire. Sidusen carried his sword and stepped forward. Longdan army camp. Sidusen has learned a thing or two. You are Sidusen? The demon emperor squinted his eyes at the unruly wastrel in front of him. You are indeed a young hero. Sidusen touched his beard. Your Majesty, don't talk nonsense. Where are the young heroes? I am just a middle-aged man who keeps a low profile. The demon emperor was stunned. He didn't expect this man to be so unruly. Sidusen said again, Your Majesty, you are a god state expert, and I am just a saint realm expert. It is beneath you to fight with me. Since you are called the celestial race, you should have some manners. Why don't you let me have a few moves? The demon emperor smiled. Since General Situ has spoken, I will let you have 3 moves. But after that, I will not show any mercy. But Sidusen held the long sword tightly with both of his hands and poured the power of the revolving heart formula into the long sword. Starlight suddenly bloomed. Sidusen dashed forward, jumped up and slashed down with his sword. It was the initial starlight of the star formula. The demon emperor was stunned. He didn't expect Sidusen to know Lin Muyu's unique skill. But he didn't think much of it. He formed a shield with his palms and blocked the attack with his master devil force. Bang! Under the attack of the sword, Sidusen was forced to step back. Fortunately, the demon emperor was only on the defensive. Otherwise, Sidusen would have been seriously injured. Good. Again. Sidusen quickly raised his chi and streams of dazzling starlight gathered in his left hand. It was the astral chain, while the long sword in his right hand condensed crimson stardust. 5 mountains descend from the heavens. Like a lightning bolt, Sidusen launched the star chain towards Versatile Emperor's lower body while the 5 mountains descending from the heavens bombarded on Versatile Emperor's chi shield. With another loud sound, Sidusen was blown away once again. His chi and blood were somewhat chaotic. The power of Versatile Emperor was like a bottomless pool of water. At least, with Sidusen's strength, he couldn't figure out the details of Versatile Emperor. After taking a few steps back, Sidusen cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, I admit defeat. The Demon Emperor is really powerful. The Demon Emperor was dumbfounded. He had never seen such a shameless person in his life. In fact, Sidusen had only learned the first 3 moves of the star skill. He had used them just now, but he still couldn't defeat the Demon Emperor. But Lin Muyu didn't hide her star skill. After she taught it to the generals, only Sidusen learned a little bit. Wei Chou, Sidushui, Bai Yin, and the others didn't even learn the first appearance of starlight. Moreover, in front of so many soldiers and generals in the Longdan army camp, Sidusen couldn't lose his face as the deputy commander. It was already very brave of him to fight against the Demon Emperor. Now, he didn't even get hurt and escaped unscathed. That would be a good story. As Sidusen walked back to the camp, he thought that he was too smart. Chapter 672. In the 4th round, there was no room for choice. Chu Chu versus the Sacred Teacher. One was a sacred teacher of the demon race, while the other was equivalent to the imperial teacher of the empire. Do you have anything to say? Chu Chu asked. Lin Muyu smiled faintly. No, we've already used the refreshing breeze intoxication. Our people have also taken the antidote. Although we don't know if the refreshing breeze intoxication is effective against a god realm master, we'll just treat it as if it's useful. Elder Chu, this saint sovereign is our greatest enemy. He's the one who controlled Little Shi's mind. If necessary, kill him. Then got it. Chu Chu floated forward, landing in the middle of the battlefield. He cupped his fists and smiled. The Empire's fire cauldron. Chu Chu requests the Demon Saint Master's guidance. The Saint Master walked forward step by step, his palms filled with demonic energy. I've long heard that one of the twin paragons of the Empire, Chu Chu, is the strongest in the Empire. Today, let this old man experience it for himself. Please. Please. The Saint Master calmly stood in the same place. Suddenly, a demonic shadow came out of his body, screaming in the air, forming a domain of darkness, causing the ground to crack. Chu Chu also stood in the same place, not moving an inch. Wang, a fiery red cauldron martial spirit, appeared around his body. Flames soared to the sky. The fire cauldron's god realm domain collided with the Saint Master's domain. The demonic shadows kept on attacking, colliding with the fire cauldron, emitting mournful wails. The two god realm masters used their domains to attack each other, causing sand and pebbles to fly everywhere, as if two storms were fighting each other. Not long after, beads of sweat appeared on the Saint Sovereign's face. He had never imagined that Chu would be this powerful. Under the constant assault of the 30 layers of the Law of Fire domain, the Saint Sovereign's 7 demons' harmony was already showing signs of losing. If he continued to fight like this, it would not be as simple as losing. The Holy Master looked at Chu with a pale face as blood spilled from the corner of his mouth. Chu did not speak or move. He only continued to increase the power of the cauldron. In an instant, the firestorm surged forward, tearing through all of the Saint Master's defenses. He was swept away by the wave of fire like a fallen leaf. Chu's figure flashed as he opened his palm. Flames erupted. This palm strike would definitely take the Saint Master's life. In the demon army, Yang Li and the other gods stood in the air with their weapons in their hands, watching as Chu killed the Saint Sovereign. They didn't even have the intention to move. To Yang Li, the Saint Sovereign was nothing more than a tool. Now that the tool's purpose had been fulfilled, it didn't matter whether he lived or died. Why should he waste his energy to save an insignificant person? At this time, the Demon King's expression turned cold as he looked at Qianfeng. Qianfeng was no longer at his original position as he charged towards Chu. With a wave of his sword, a scarlet-red sword chi shot out as he shouted, "The Saint Sovereign has been defeated. Sir Chu, please show mercy." Chu was stunned. Qianfeng's attack was not to be underestimated. With a wave of his palm, he bestowed this palm strike onto Qianfeng. Pooh! Qianfeng could no longer withstand the power of Chu's palm strike. He spat out a mouthful of blood as he was sent flying with his sword. However, his appearance had saved the Saint Sovereign's life. Qianfeng and the Saint Sovereign landed on the ground together. The demon race was shocked. No one expected that the Saint Sovereign and Qianfeng would be so weak in front of Chu. Chu stood majestically in the sky as he looked at Yang Li, Huang Yi, Pei Sun, and the others indifferently. These people were the real enemies. Good, very good. In the sky, Yang Li actually laughed and clapped his hands as he said, "I didn't expect the human realm to have so many geniuses. This is really unexpected. This plane actually has a hierarch who can condense a divine wall. This is really not simple. Chu, you have given me a pleasant surprise. It is really not easy for a mortal to cultivate the heavenly Tao lattice." Chu didn't say anything as he turned around and flew back to the human realm. The last battle was between Lin Muyu and Yang Li. "Your Highness, do you think you can defeat Yang Li?" Sidusan asked. "I don't know." Lin Muyu frowned and asked, "General Sun, do you think our Qingfeng Drunken is effective?" "Definitely. Look, many of the demon race soldiers are already drowsy." It was true that many armored demons and high-level demons who were holding their shields in the distance had already fallen to the ground in disappointment. However, the white sand slope was windy, and the effect of refreshing breeze intoxication was obviously not as good as it was in the jungle. Besides, Yang Li, Pei Xuan, Wildness, and other gods didn't seem to care about it at all. The bodies of gods would also be much more resistant to poison. Thus, refreshing breeze intoxication might really be useless. "Forget it," Lin Muyu said lightly. "Send a secret order for the rear to retreat. Wei Chou, take the heavenly book with you. Once you move, order the magic crystal cannon to blast the entire white sand slope." "Yes, but Your Highness, what about you?" "I'm fine. Don't worry, Yang Li would not bear to kill me." "Yes." Lin Muyu patted his shoulder and said to Qing Yu, "Go to the sky and don't come down without my order. Do you understand?" Qing Yu flapped his wings and soared into the sky. "Can we start now?" Yang Li looked down at Lin Muyu and slowly walked down from the sky. With every step he took, a layer of frost formed in the air to withstand his combat boots. The divine power of the divine king continued to spread in all directions, causing the temperature to drop a lot. Lin Muyu raised her hand and pulled out her stellar sword. She then pulled off Wang Ju's golden cloak and threw it to Sidu Shui, who was standing beside her. She then leapt forward to meet Yang Li. The two of them did not choose to fight on the ground, but in the air. Die! Yang Li roared and slashed down with his sword that contained the power of heaven and earth. Even the domain that the blade passed through was immediately frozen. It was as if the entire plane was going to be frozen because of his power. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. Dark clouds covered the sky, and in the blink of an eye, it was snowing heavily. This was the divine power of the 20th paradise, summoning wind and rain. A real god could control the weather. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and the flames around her rose. A dazzling ice crystal bloomed in her palm. Her two martial souls instantly fused into the 7 luminaries' celestial sword and surrounded the star's sword. The celestial dragon crystal enveloped the sword and shot towards Yang Li's attack at lightning speed. Bang! The power reverberated in the sky like thunder. The power of the attack stunned Yang Li. In less than half a month, Lin Muyu, who only had 10 waves, had actually cultivated to 15 waves. What kind of advancement speed was this? At the thought of this, the greed in Yang Li's eyes became even more intense. It must be the supreme godhead that could allow a mortal to advance so quickly. In that case, this kid must be killed. However, he couldn't easily kill him, as that would damage the power of the godhead. He had to extract the godhead while he was still alive. Although it would be very painful, the godhead would be quite complete, and its power wouldn't leak out. In any case, he wouldn't be the one who was in pain. Yang Li suddenly opened his 5 fingers and activated his frost divine power. Suddenly, frost swirled around Lin Muyu and formed a huge cage in the blink of an eye. Have a taste of my frost cage. Lin Muyu, who was imprisoned in the frost cage, felt a bone-chilling cold enveloping her body. The surface of her skin was quickly covered with frost. How could this be? She would soon be frozen to death. She quickly raised her chi and the supreme godhead surged. It turned into raging flames and attacked the surroundings. The law of fire was one of the laws that Lin Muyu was familiar with. With the raging flames in her hands, she swung her sword and launched the attack of 5 mountains descending from the sky. Bang! A large hole was blasted open at the bottom of the cage. But just as Lin Muyu escaped from the cage, a rope of frost wrapped around his body as if it had a mind of its own. It was Yang Li's move again. This godly king really had a lot of tricks up his sleeves. God-binding chains. Lin Muyu bellowed and the 7 luminaries' immortal swords' God-binding chains came out. The immortal sword disintegrated and the God-binding chains turned into sharp knives that slashed fiercely. In the blink of an eye, Yang Li's ice rope was completely shredded. But just as he was freed, another wave of cold divine power came. This time, it was Yang Li's all-out attack. Lin Muyu had no time to dodge and could only use the Dragon Blood Battle shield to block. Bang! Under the impact of 57 waves of divine power, the Dragon Blood Battle shield shattered. A crushing force descended from the sky and blasted Lin Muyu away like a cannonball. Dust flew everywhere. The divine power domain protected his body as he smashed into the white sand slope. Lin Muyu was in the middle of it. He vomited a mouthful of blood. The difference in strength was too great. Can you surrender now? Yang Li descended from the sky and lightly stepped on the ground with his battle boots. Numerous ropes of frost extended from the ground and tightly bound Lin Muyu. His palm turned into a sharp blade and stabbed into Lin Muyu's chest. However, it was not the side of his heart. It was as if he wanted to keep Lin Muyu alive. He laughed sinisterly and said, "It's too much of a waste to leave the supreme godhead on a piece of trash like you. Just leave it to me." Lin Muyu vomited a mouthful of blood and screamed miserably. Looking up, Yang Li opened his palm and a golden suction force suddenly wrapped around the supreme godhead in Lin Muyu's head and slowly dragged it out. Instantly, the intense pain caused Lin Muyu's handsome face to contort and he screamed miserably. "You!" Chu Yao unsheathed her sword and was about to step forward. Yao, don't. Chu Chu raised his hand to stop Chu Yao and said, "You will die if you go. Moreover, do you think that you will be defeated by Yang Li so easily? He is only doing this because he has other intentions." Other intentions? Chu Yao looked at Lin Muyu's pained expression and said, "You is about to die in Yang Li's hands. Are we just going to watch it happen?" Suddenly, a chirping sound could be heard from the sky. It was Qin Yu. After seeing Lin Muyu's pitiful state, Qin Yu attacked immediately. He descended from the sky and pecked at Yang Li's head in a frenzy. "You irritating feathered beast!" Yang Li suddenly roared and icicles shot towards the sky. In the blink of an eye, Qin Yu's body was pierced through and he fell to the ground in a mess. Lin Muyu looked in Qin Yu's direction and suddenly felt a pain from the depths of his soul. What happened to me? Looks like Lin Muyu won't be able to escape this calamity. Qian Feng held his injured chest and said calmly. The sage sovereign narrowed his eyes and said, "Shao Shi, once Yang Li obtains the supreme godhead, you must attack immediately. Do you understand?" However, flames suddenly rose from the side and Tang Xiaoxi revealed her nine-tailed form. She knelt on the ground and a terrifying divine power surged to form a fiery force field that pushed the demon emperor and the sage sovereign away. When Tang Xiaoxi raised her head, 2 streaks of golden tears flowed down her cheeks and her eyes were filled with killing intent. She spat out a voice that seemed to come from purgatory, "Bastard, I won't allow you to kill him." Chapter 673. Boom! Flames filled with the demonic power of the nine-tailed demon soared into the sky. Looking at Lin Muyu's miserable condition, Tang Xiaoxi's Yi released a golden light that engulfed her body and drove away the Saint Master's mind-manipulating spell. "Tang Xiaoxi, what are you doing?" The Demon King yelled. "Have you forgotten who you are? Get lost." Tang Xiaoxi raised her left hand, and a blood-red nine-tailed claw tore through the air, sending the Devil Emperor flying away like a broken kite. A group of armor demons roared and brandished their weapons, but Tang Xiaoxi didn't want to get entangled with them. Her body was wrapped in a ball of raging flames, and she charged toward the center of the battlefield like a bolt of lightning. She silently stabbed her claw into the back of God King Yang Li, who was concentrating on seizing the Supreme Being lattice. Puff! Golden blood splattered and 3 sharp claws pierced through Yang Li's chest. He could not help but whimper and turn to look at Tang Xiaoxi. "But why?" Lin Muyu took the opportunity to put the divine spark back into her Yi. Her body was covered in starlight and her right palm was filled with the power of moonlight. She shouted, "Shao Shi, get out of the way." Tang Xiaoxi understood tacitly and pulled out her sharp claws. In a flash, she appeared behind Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu's right palm was actually holding a bright moon energy as she slammed it onto Yang Li's chest. "I have the divine wall. You useless ultimate god want to kill me?" Yang Li roared and gathered almost all of his divine power on the divine wall around him. Immediately, a sparkling and translucent golden light wall appeared in front of his chest. Lin Muyu attacked without saying a word. It was the 7th style of the star technique that she had painstakingly cultivated in the pool, Falling Moon River. It refined the moonlight for her own use and attacked the opponent with the all-pervasive power of moonlight. Moreover, the specialty of Falling Moon River was to cut the opponent's meridians. As the name suggested, it could cut the opponent's meridians and make them lose the ability to breathe for a short period of time. Bang! The palm strike landed on the god wall. Yang Li's god wall was originally strong enough to block Flowing River Falling Moon. However, after being ambushed by Tang Xiaoxi, the god wall was already flawed. How could it block Lin Muyu's full power strike? Her palm pierced through the god wall and sent Flowing River Falling Moon's profound energy into Yang Li's mouth. Instantly, Yang Li gave a muffled groan and flew backwards with blood spurting out of his mouth. All the meridians in his chest had been severed and he couldn't summon any strength in his limbs. If he wanted to use his divine energy to recover, he would need at least half a month. "Shao Shi, are you awake?" In the raging flames, Lin Muyu looked at Tang Xiaoxi. "Yeah, I'm awake." "I'm sorry," Tang Xiaoxi mumbled. Kill the Holy Master, or else he will control you again. In the air, Pei Sun, Huang Yi, and the others all took out their weapons. Huang Yi also raised his battle axe and smashed down, shouting, "Quickly save Sir Divine King, kill them all, the martial arts competition is over. Who dares to attack?" Chu Chu's figure flashed, and the fire cauldron suddenly shot up into the sky, blocking Huang Yi, Pei Sun, and the others in the north like a heavenly wall. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu took the opportunity to attack. After killing 2 armor demons with a sweep of her sword, she suddenly opened her palm, and many gourd vines broke out of the ground, just in time to bind the injured Holy Master's legs. "Lin Muyu, what are you doing?" Qian Feng roared hoarsely from dozens of meters away. He had found that the situation was completely out of the control of the demon clan. Tang Xiaoxi had always been a big variable, and now that Tang Xiaoxi had unexpectedly broken through the control of the Holy Master, it meant that the demon clan's operation this time had completely failed. The Holy Master's legs were bound, and he roared and used his guru devil force to break the gourd vines one by one, but it was too slow. He looked up and saw Lin Muyu shooting over under the light of the sun like a sharp arrow. 7 devils combination. The devil shadow flew out, and the Holy Master raised his arms and used his strongest martial art. He could only rely on the 7 devils combination to block Lin Muyu's attack. Otherwise, the Holy Master could also imagine his own fate. Clang. The stellar sword's bright light pierced through the light wall formed by the 7 devils combination, and energy splashed out. The Holy Master's mouth was wide open, and he looked at Lin Muyu in horror. "It's over, everything is over." Pooh. The sharp blade pierced into the Holy Master's mouth without hesitation, and came out through his brain. A blood-red mortal lattice flew out, and the Holy Master's body was kicked away by Lin Muyu. "Holy Master!" Qian Feng lost his voice and roared. He knew what the Holy Master meant to the devil race, and he was like a central brain. But now, the Holy Master actually died under the sword of Lin Muyu. When Qian Feng flew over and wanted to hug the Holy Master's body, the hidden force hidden in Lin Muyu's kick suddenly exploded, and with a pung sound, the Holy Master's body turned into a cloud of blood mist. This, Qian Feng stood in the wind covered in blood, and his expression was dispirited. How could this be? How could this be? In the sky, raging flames rose, and Zhou Shi and Chang Fan, the 2 upper-world gods who had the law of fire, descended from the sky. They punched and punched at Lin Muyu with godly power. Lin Muyu's eyes were already red from killing, and she didn't care so much. Her 7 luminaries' celestial sword wrapped around her body, and she flew forward. Her left palm deflected the force, and her body spun rapidly in the sky. The stellar sword carried the wave of the 15th layer paradise and struck Zhou Shi's back. Pooh! Golden blood splattered everywhere. Zhou Shi didn't have the protection of the divine wall, and he was seriously injured in the blink of an eye. However, Lin Muyu's shoulder had also received Chang Fan's palm that was filled with raging flames. Pang! A total of 21 waves reverberated on her shoulder, and Lin Muyu felt a sweetness in her throat as she spat out a mouthful of blood. None of the people from the Northern Heaven realm were weak, and they were indeed very strong. In the distance, Chu Chu and Tang Xiaoxi were already fighting with Pei Sun, Lu Jin, Zhu He, and Huang Yi. The Demon Emperor had already escaped, and Ouyang Yen had miraculously appeared in the north, blocking God King Yang Li's path of retreat. "Why, do you still want to leave?" The beautiful smile on Ouyang Yan's face actually became especially sinister. Yang Li's face turned cold. "Ouyang Yan, you want to kill me? So what if I kill you? Do you know what the consequences of killing me are?" Yang Li said coldly. "This means that you will become the enemy of the entire Northern Heaven realm. Ouyang Yan, you are merely a trash god from the East Heaven. Do you dare to offend the entire Northern Heaven realm?" Ouyang Yan laughed. "In terms of bullying the weak and intimidating the weak, your Northern Heaven realm is indeed unique. Unfortunately, I am now following Lin Muyu, the future supreme god. Hee, I am standing on the right side. Your Frost Divine Lattice is a cast immortal lattice. How can I let it go so easily? You're courting death." Yang Li roared, and once again took out his ice sword. Ouyang Yen waved her hands, and raging flames rose to the sky. One ice and one fire battle, but it wasn't fair. Yang Li was directly hit by Lin Muyu's falling moon profound energy, and his meridians were severed. He couldn't recover in a short period of time, and the power he could muster was no more than 10%. Ouyang Yen, on the other hand, maintained almost 100% of her battle power, so it wasn't fair at all. Once the flames passed, Yang Li's Su Ran was burnt black. He couldn't even condense his divine wall, so how could he be Ouyang Yan's opponent? Didn't you want the sovereign lattice? Ouyang Yen smiled extremely sweetly, and said, do you know how painful it is to have your divine lattice forcibly extracted? I guess you don't know, but I, Ouyang Yen, am a kind-hearted person. Today, I will let you experience it. As she said that, Ouyang Yan's flame domain spread out, forcefully imprisoning Yang Li, the divine king, in place. She walked forward, pressed her left hand on Yang Li's head, and suddenly opened her right hand. An invisible suction force was activated, and just like that, Yang Li's cast immortal lattice was slowly extracted from his Ihai. Yang Li's miserable howl was earth-shattering, but the 6 ultimate gods were already entangled, so how could they have the leisure to save him? More importantly, Yang Li's fate had come to an end. He was an outstanding figure among the divine kings, but that was only in the past. Now that Yang Li was seriously injured, he couldn't even defeat a ultimate god, so he had lost the value of loyalty. So, when a crystal-clear divine lattice with frost lingering on it appeared in Ouyang Yan's palm, Yang Li held his head and fell back, howling miserably. Ouyang Yen looked at him coldly and said, Lin Muyu has the sovereign lattice, and you want to take it for yourself. If this is the law of your northern heaven realm, then I will also do a good deed and give you a quick death. Flames spat out from her palm, and in the blink of an eye, it engulfed Yang Li's body. In the blink of an eye, this expert who was once a divine king was burnt black, and he no longer moved. At this moment, the sky thundered incessantly, as if the heavens were also angry. Yang Li's body seemed to have been eroded, turning into dust in the breeze, and seeping into the soil. Was this the scene of a divine king falling? Bang! Zhou Shi's palm collided with Lin Muyu's fist, and both of them retreated at the same time. Lin Muyu's expression was extremely ugly. She was already injured in the duel with Yang Li, and her sovereign lattice was almost taken away, so she could only muster up 60% of her strength. At this moment, she had to fight against Zhou Shi and Chang Fan alone. What was more hateful was that although Zhou Shi was injured, his palm still contained the god's wave of the 29 heavens, making Lin Muyu feel as if the meridians in her arm were about to be shattered. Protect His Highness! Susan, Wei Chou, and the others rushed over. Wei Chou's sharp arrows whizzed past, forcing Zhou Shi to retreat. However, Chang Fan still landed a heavy punch on Lin Muyu's dragon blood battle shield. Bang! Lin Muyu's figure flew backward, and she knelt heavily on the ground. She felt as if she could not muster up the strength in her body. There was a sweet taste in her throat, and she opened her mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Moreover, the blood was faintly golden. This proved that her body was being tempered, and she was going through a process of being reborn, which was also the process of becoming a god. In the air, Chu Chu and Tang Xiaoxi had also forced their opponents to retreat, and they rushed over together. Moo! Tang Xiaoxi's breathing was rapid. There was a deep wound on her shoulder, and blood was flowing out. It was caused by Huang Yi's battle axe. She quickly held onto Lin Muyu's hand, and asked anxiously, Are you all right? Lin Muyu's breathing was weak, and her Ihai was dim. She was about to faint at any time. She looked at Tang Xiaoxi, and held her hand tightly and said, Xiaoxi, come home with me. Tang Xiaoxi did not speak, but tears flowed out of her eyes, and she could not stop nodding. Wei Chou took out a dagger, which was the prototype of the heavenly book of the law of space. He said, All right, let's go. The magic crystal cannon is about to be fired. A blue light shot into the sky, and the power of heaven and earth was drawn. The power of space around everyone began to swirl rapidly, and in the blink of an eye, the heavenly book had brought everyone 5 miles to the south. At the same time, the sound of the magic crystal cannon's bombardment could be heard. From afar, the white sand slope had become a sea of fire, and purple mushroom clouds rose into the sky. Your Highness, our plan succeeded. Wei Chao's face was full of excitement, and he did not care about the ash stains on his face. Lin Muyu's mind was in chaos, and she fainted without saying a word. Chapter 674. Beneath the dilapidated walls of sky-piercing city, a small courtyard was filled with charred and shattered debris from the magic crystal cannons. Lin Muyu sat under a cluster of grapevines, sharpening a piece of wood with a long sword and stabbing it into the ground. The northern wind was biting cold, and snowflakes drifted down from the sky. He couldn't help but shiver. Today's work was to rebuild this grapevine frame. Sparse footsteps came from afar. When Lin Muyu pushed open the dilapidated wooden door, he saw a young girl holding a white oil paper umbrella walking over. It was Qin Yin. He rubbed his eyes in disbelief. Xiao Yin. What, it's been 5 years. Big brother Yu doesn't recognize me anymore? Qin Yin closed the umbrella, allowing the snowflakes to fall on her hair and the fox fur epaulets. How did you? Lin Muyu wanted to say something but stopped. The person he had missed for so many years had suddenly appeared, leaving him at a loss. Qin Yin burst into laughter. Although I died once, but big brother Yu, don't forget, Xiao Yin is a god. A god is a supreme ruler who can see through the cycle of reincarnation. Big brother Yu, stay here and wait for me. Xiao Yin will naturally come to see you. As she spoke, Qin Yin tilted her head and looked at Lin Muyu's residence. She couldn't help but laugh. Wow, Big brother Yu's residence is so sad. Does His Highness live in a place like this? Just temporarily. Lin Muyu rubbed his nose and explained awkwardly. Temporarily? Qin Yin walked into the courtyard, stepping on the shallow snow on the ground. But Xiao Yin likes it here. It's quiet and peaceful. Although it's run down, it's nothing if I can be with Big brother Yu, right? Yes. Qin Yin walked up and gently held Lin Muyu's hand. I missed you so much. Why didn't you come to find me? She murmured. I looked for it but I couldn't find it, Lin Muyu said honestly. Is that so? Qin Yin giggled and bent down to look at the place where Lin Muyu had been working. Is this a grape trellis? Yeah. Lin Muyu also knelt on the ground and carefully swept away the snow with her palms to protect the tender roots of the grapevines. She said with some regret, I don't know if it will survive. I hope it can bloom and sprout next year. That way, there will be grapes to eat in the hot summer. Qin Yin took a closer look and chuckled. Yeah, he'll definitely survive. Lin Muyu simply sat on the ground and looked at the courtyard. She said, Xiao Yin, look at this courtyard. It's so shabby. Not to mention a bed, it doesn't even have walls to block the wind. Do you really want to live here with me? Yes. Qin Yin smiled sweetly. If there's no wall, we can rebuild it. As long as I'm with you, I'm willing to suffer any hardships. Is that so? Lin Muyu looked at her with a smile. Qin Yin gave a simple answer. She snuggled up to Lin Muyu and rested her beautiful face on Lin Muyu's knee. She said softly, We've agreed that we must be together. Yeah. Lin Muyu's heart ached. Suddenly, tears flowed down her cheeks. The scene suddenly disappeared without a trace. Lin Muyu suddenly woke up from the dream. She exclaimed and sat up, only to find that she was sitting on the bed in the commander's tent in the Longdan army camp. The scene just now was just a dream. Mu, are you okay? Tang Xiaoxi was watching over her with red eyes. I'm fine. Lin Muyu shook her head. At this time, Ouyang Yan, Chu Chu, Chu Yao and others came in. After everyone inquired about her health, Lin Muyu murmured, I just dreamed of Xiao Yin. You must be missing her too much. I haven't dreamed of her for a few months. I just dreamed of her. Lin Muyu was disappointed. Chu Chu could not help but turn his face away. He could not bear to see Lin Muyu's dejected look. At this moment, Chu Chu only felt a pang in his heart. The heavens had taken pity on Lin Muyu. The reason why Lin Muyu would dream of Qin Yin was because Qin Yin's reincarnation form, Qin Yu, was killed by Yang Li not long ago. The longing between the two seemed to be able to break the law of reincarnation. I'm sorry. Tang Xiaoxi sat by the bed, tears flowing down her face. She kept apologizing. She knew that she had killed Qin Yin with her own hands. If Qin Yin hadn't died, Lin Muyu wouldn't have become like this. Lin Muyu didn't say anything. Apologizing wouldn't bring Qin Yin back to life. Alright, Xiaoxi. Chu Yao walked forward and gently held Tang Xiaoxi's hand. You were only controlled by the sacred saint. It wasn't your fault. You don't have to blame yourself. No, that's me. Tang Xiaoxi seemed to remember something. Her body twitched in pain, and tears fell like rain. She said in a trembling voice, that's me being jealous. That's a crazy me. I'm a bad woman. I've killed so many people. Xiaoxi. Chu Chu's eyes turned cold. Control your mind. You have to be strong. Do you know why Xiao Yin died? It was because your will wasn't strong enough. It was because you weren't strong enough at that time. If you don't want to repeat the same mistakes, don't be weak anymore. I know. Tang Xiaoxi suddenly stood up and knelt by Lin Muyu's bedside. She held his hand and cried, Mu, forgive me. Forgive me. If death can make up for my guilt, kill me and avenge Xiao Yin. Lin Muyu looked at her absent-mindedly. Suddenly she reached out and touched Tang Xiaoxi's face. She said softly, Xiao Yin and I don't blame you. In the future, you and I will find Xiao Yin together, okay? Tang Xiaoxi nodded her head repeatedly. She cried like a pear blossom in the rain. Get up, Xiaoxi. Stop acting like this. Lin Muyu pulled Tang Xiaoxi back to her side. She looked up at the crowd and asked, How is the demon race? Did you find anything on the White Sand Slope battlefield? Wei Chou cupped his fists respectfully. Your Highness, the magic crystal cannons had almost flattened the White Sand Slope battlefield. When we were cleaning up the battlefield, we found the corpses of Supreme God Zhou Shi, Chang Fan, and Lu Jin. However, their godheads had been taken away. In addition, dozens of demon race's high-ranking officers were killed by the cannons. Saint Master was killed by Your Highness. Qianfeng, Demon Emperor, Huang Yi, Pei Sun, and Zhu He were seriously injured and escaped. It can be considered a complete victory. Lin Muyu said with a faint smile. Yes. Situ-sin laughed and said, Your Highness, if you hadn't fainted, it would have been a complete victory. Lin Muyu glanced at him and continued, Send some craftsmen to build a steel wall 2 miles away from the demon race's sky canopy, sealing the demon race inside the Heaven's Gorge. Once we've rested, we'll prepare to attack the Heaven's Gorge and annihilate the demon race. Yes, Your Highness. I understand. Not far away, Ouyang Yen said with a smile, Your Highness, I have a gift for you. What gift? Take a look. Ouyang Yen took out a gemstone that was enshrouded in divine power from her interspatial bag. Frost slowly swirled around it. It was Yang Li's cast immortal godhead. When the godhead was taken out, the temperature in the tent dropped by at least 10 degrees. Psst. Yang Li's godhead? That's right. Ouyang Yen said with a smile, This is a cast immortal godhead. Moreover, it's a very pure law of frost godhead. Unfortunately, it's not something I can use. I better cultivate my heavenly Tao godhead. I'll leave this cast immortal godhead to Your Highness. For me? Lin Muyu murmured, but it's useless to me. From their tone, my sovereign godhead is already the most powerful godhead in the 3 realms. Tang Xiaoxi and Chu Yao couldn't help but laugh. Can't you be humble? Chu Chu squinted his eyes and said with a smile, I think you should just accept this cast immortal lattice. Such a good thing isn't something that can be encountered in a day. Furthermore, we are in the Shattered Cauldron Plane. A cast immortal lattice can also trigger a war between gods. If you don't accept it, this cast immortal lattice might bring about a fatal disaster to Ouyang Yen. A fatal disaster? Ouyang Yan's beautiful face turned pale. She quickly handed the godhead to Lin Muyu and said with a smile, How is it, Your Highness? I'm very sensible, right? Lin Muyu was speechless. She casually threw Yang Li's cast immortal godhead into her cosmos sack. Actually, Yang Li was a god with a very bright future. Unfortunately, he ran to the Shattered Cauldron realm to fight for the sovereign godhead. In the end, he went for wool and came home shorn. Instead, he lost his caste immortal godhead here. Lin Muyu was a little nervous. She had a caste immortal godhead. Chu Chu calmly walked forward and said with a smile, do you remember the fourth style of the spiritual refinement art? Yes, it's the 1,000 tempering 100 refinement art. That's right. 1,000 tempering. Chu Chu smiled meaningfully. The so-called 1,000 tempering is the tempering of one's godhead. The growth of a godhead is like a human. It needs to absorb many kinds of spiritual power and nutrients to grow. The best nutrients for the growth of a godhead are godheads. If you can refine Yang Li's caste immortal godhead and use it to temper your sovereign godhead, your cultivation will definitely improve greatly. As he spoke, Chu Chu sighed. The power of a sovereign godhead is very vigorous. The heavenly Tao godhead and the mortal godhead are not worthy of being the nutrients for a sovereign godhead. Yang Li's caste immortal godhead came at the right time. Lin Muyu, refining a godhead. This spiritual refinement art was indeed worthy of its name. On the white sand slope, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. A wisp of soul slowly rose from the white sand slope. It left the original body of Qin Yu and turned into the body of a beautiful girl. It was Qin Yin. She blankly looked at the mess around her. There were many demon corpses that were not buried. Moreover, there were traces of battle between Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi, and Chu Chu. Yu Xiaoxi, Qin Yin thought of everything and couldn't help but feel sad. She murmured, "Big brother, you still doesn't recognize Xiao Yin?" At this time, the heavenly realm gates suddenly opened and two gods flew down. One was holding a pipa and the other a spear. They were Qin Ming and Yu Wu, the two giant gods who specialized in reincarnation. But when he saw the young girl's soul standing on the ground, Qin Ming couldn't help but tremble. Last time, he was beaten up to imprison her. This girl's spiritual power was too strong. "You go." Qin Ming said, "I will support you with my zither." Yu Wu stared at him and said, "Why don't you go?" At this time, Qin Yin raised her head and looked at the two giant gods in the sky. She slowly turned her palm and a few heaven dragon crystals shining with golden light condensed. She faintly asked, "This time, where will I be reincarnated to?" Yu Wu's body trembled. "The ghost Tao. You will become a ghost until the end of your cultivation." "Say that again." Qin Yin murmured. Yu Wu's face turned purple. "It's the ghost Tao. Heroine, let me say this first, don't hit my face." Chapter 675. In the eastern region of the dragon-shaped island, tens of thousands of protruding reefs covered the sea like a stone forest, turning the entire eastern region of the dragon-shaped island into a secret area. No one had ever explored it, and none of those who had sailed to the east had ever returned. Early in the morning, the white fog of late autumn filled the sea. Less than 10 meters away, the sound of horse hooves could be heard. It was the Iha kingdom. Long Qianlin rode on a green-haired warhorse and wore a commander's armor. The 3 golden stars on his collar flickered in the fog. Behind him was a group of soldiers with bows and arrows on their backs and long swords in their hands. Beside him was a young man. It was none other than Qin Huan, the son of Qin Yi, the only heir of the Iha kingdom. "When will this fog disperse?" Long Qianlin frowned. He could not see through the fog in front of him. Beside him, an adjunct cupped his fists and said, "General Long, the fog will disperse as soon as the wind blows. The wind on the East Sea is unpredictable. No one knows when the wind will blow and when it will calm down." Qin Huan said, "General Long, do you really want to explore the Eastern Sea region?" Long Qianlin nodded and looked tired. He said, "The dragon-shaped island is just an isolated island. It can't accommodate so many people of the Iha kingdom. Your Highness, the eastern region of the dragon-shaped island is boundless. No one has ever conquered this sea region. No one knows what's on the other side of the sea. I suggest that we organize iron-armored warships to cross this sea region and look for a new habitat." But Qin Huan looked gloomy. He said, We have mined nearly half of the iron mines on the dragon-shaped island. It's easy for General Long to build a fleet, but this fleet will consume nearly 30% of the Iha Kingdom's national strength. Does General Long know about this? I know. The corner of Long Qianlin's mouth curled up as he said with a smile, but I also know that our merchant ships are still maintaining trade with the Middle-earth continent. Feng Jixing has not completely cut off the sea route between the Iha Kingdom and the Empire. Moreover, I also know that the Marquis of Sunset Sun, the Marquis of Lingnan, the Marquis of Soaring Sky, and the other feudal vassals have not only brought their families to the dragon-shaped island, they have also brought a large amount of treasures, antiques, top-grade weapons, and embryos of the Heavenly Book. If they are willing to offer up these treasures, we can send hundreds of merchant ships to the port of the Soaring Sky province to trade for sufficient grains and ironware. We can also hire craftsmen to work for the Iha Kingdom on the dragon-shaped island. Qin Huan couldn't help taking a deep breath. General Long, are you really planning to touch Marquis Xiang and the others? No eggs can survive a toppled nest. I think the nobles should understand this simple principle. Once the dragon-shaped island runs out of food, we can only wait for death. Their glory, splendor, wealth, and rank will also come to an end. Long Qianlin placed his hand on the hilt of his sword and said indifferently, "We should be thankful that Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu didn't wipe us out and allowed the Empire's sea border to open trade with us. Otherwise, I'm afraid the Iha Kingdom would have been wiped out on the dragon-shaped island a year ago. However, if we continue to sit back and eat, the Iha Kingdom will still be wiped out." Qin Huan frowned. "I understand, but General Long, you must never say things like the Iha Kingdom will be wiped out, especially in front of Father. He's old and can't take any more blows." "Yes, this subordinate understands. Thank you for your reminder, Your Highness. Go back. This matter needs to be discussed with Father and Marshal Ding Shi." While the Iha Kingdom was secretly planning, the reconstruction of Skyspan City in the Skyspan province was also in full swing. In just a few months, the city that had been destroyed by cannon fire had shown signs of life again. The city walls were erected, and the area was nearly twice as wide as before. The green city walls were cast with silver azure bronze, making the entire city appear much more luxurious. Within the city lord's mansion had already begun to take shape. The craftsmen were busy inside and out. This city lord's mansion was also known as King Qin's mansion. The rear courtyard had already been completed, and there were pavilions and terraces stretching for miles. It looked rather like a king's mansion. Bai Yin led a group of guards in silver armor through the rear courtyard of the king's mansion to ensure its safety. In a small courtyard, a few pomegranate trees swayed gently in the breeze. The huge pomegranates pressed their branches close to the ground, swaying in the breeze together with the branches. Under the trees, Lin Muyu, dressed in black, slowly opened her arms. In the open space in front of her, the refining cauldron flickered incessantly. A godhead wrapped in frost was buzzing and trembling in the treasured cauldron. Wisps of invisible divine power were being extracted from the godhead, and then slowly seeped into Lin Muyu's forehead and entered her EC. The EC was already a world of ice and snow. Yang Li's cast immortal lattice of the law of frost was extremely powerful. It was not easy for Lin Muyu to refine and eat this godhead. In the blink of an eye, her face was already covered in sweat, and the area around her arms was frozen into a layer of frost. Then, it melted under the surging flames of the sovereign lattice. This process repeated over and over again. Finally, when the EC was completely filled with the divine power of frost, Lin Muyu began to withdraw her power. She could only refine so much divine power at one time. This was the limit that Lin Muyu's EC could bear. However, the ice and snow energy in the entire EC only took up less than 1,000th of Yang Li's cast immortal lattice. It seemed that it would take at least a year to completely refine the power of this godhead. Hua! The light from the forging cauldron dissipated. Lin Muyu raised her hand and placed the godhead into the Qiankuan pouch. She wiped the sweat off her forehead and felt that her EC was clear and the divine power in her body was even more vigorous. This was the benefit of the spirit refinement art. She could refine other people's power for her own use. Otherwise, even with Lin Muyu's innate talent, it would take her at least 100 years to reach the Divine King realm by herself. Rustle, rustle. Amidst the fragmented sounds of footsteps, the graceful Tang Xiaoxi walked over with a plate of fruits in her hands. She smiled and said, "Mu, you must have lost a lot of water during the refinement. Come and eat some fruits." Lin Muyu sat down on a stone bench at the side. She picked up a pear and started to eat it. The flame energy and frost energy on her body intertwined and actually turned into steam that slowly rose up. Tang Xiaoxi couldn't help but laugh. "How is your cultivation of the spirit refinement art? How's the progress?" "Yang Li's forged immortal godhead is really powerful. I can only refine my god force in one go. I can't rush it." Lin Muyu thought for a moment and said, "Currently, the refinement progress is about 19%. It's still early." Tang Xiaoxi giggled and said, "Almost 20%, not bad. Don't rush it, it will damage your body." "All right, since you have already refined 20% of Yang Li's god force, did it increase your cultivation?" Lin Muyu nodded heavily and flipped her palm. Immediately, a golden wave of divinity surged in her palm. The waves were like a tower that reached the sky, stacking on top of each other. There was a total of 19 layers. "Wow," Tang Xiaoxi beamed and said, "So powerful. You are already at the 19th heavenly abode realm. As long as you work hard, Mu will be able to step into the first heavenly abode realm." "Yes, Yang Li's godhead is not fake. All right, I have been cultivating in the afternoon. Has big sister Chu Yao returned from the spiritual medicine division?" "Yes, she is back. Didn't you see her?" Tang Xiaoxi beamed with joy. "Wei Chou went into the mountain yesterday to hunt a cloud deer and sent 2 legs. So, big sister Chu Yao has already washed her hands and went to cook. She said that she will let you have a good meal tonight. After all, cultivating consumes too much energy." "Where is Chu? If we cook the cloud deer meat, he will probably refuse to eat it again, yes?" Tang Xiaoxi smiled lightly. "Chu can communicate with all living beings. He has already decided not to eat meat. Forget it, let him eat corn on the cob." Who is talking bad about me?" In the wing room, Chu Chu walked in with his hands behind his back. He looked spirited and energetic. He looked at Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi with a smile. Lin Muyu smiled and said, "Old Chu, Sister Chu Yao is going to show off her cooking skills tonight. She's going to cook a table full of delicious dishes. Are you really not going to eat meat forever? Cultivation is so tiring. How can you stop eating meat?" Chu Chu looked helpless. "My cultivation is different from yours. What you cultivate is the domineering way of dominating the world. What I cultivate is the divine way of caring for the common people. We can't be compared together. But Yao's cooking is so good. The vegetables she cooks are also very delicious. Anyway, we are going to have a good meal tonight." Yes, yes, in the blink of an eye, the sun set in the west. A table of food and wine was set up in the pagoda in the backyard of King Qin's residence. Chu Yao personally cooked. The table of delicious food was filled with a fragrant smell. 2 maids lit the lamps. A few guards stood at a distance. Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi, Chu Yao, and Chu Chu sat around the table. They looked at the dishes and were already tempted to eat. Lin Muyu poured wine for Chu Chu and smiled. "Thank you, Chu, for teaching me and big sister Chu Yao these days. Come, let me give you a toast." Chu Chu nodded. "It's nothing, there's no need to be so polite." After downing the wine, Tang Xiaoxi started to attack the cloud deer meat. Chu Yao's cooking was indeed superb. The cloud deer meat became delicious under her skillful hands. Tang Xiaoxi's face turned red as she ate. She kept putting food into Chu Yao's bowl. Chu Yao maintained some of the dignity of the spiritual medicine department's chief deacon. She smiled as she watched Lin Muyu and Chu drink. This long-lost feeling made everyone very happy. Perhaps this was the feeling of being together with family? Unfortunately, Qin Yin was no longer here. If she was here, Lin Muyu was willing to exchange anything for such a joyous gathering. At this time, Outside the spatial wall of the ghost Dao, after several months of pursuit, Qin Yin's spirit was still unwilling to be bound. With a flash of light, she was already several miles away. Damn, it's so hateful. Qin Ming and Yu Wu flew into a rage. At the same time, their cheeks were full of bruises, especially Yu Wu. The left side of his face was swollen to the point where he could barely see his eye. Qin Yin, if you continue to be so stubborn, we can only invite the Purgatory Master to take your life. So what if you manage to escape? Can you escape your destiny? Qin Yin suddenly stopped in the air. Her eyes were dim as she said, "Forget it, I'll go with you to the ghost Dao." Chapter 676. In the mountains to the south of Sunset City in Lingnan, flags fluttered in the wind. About several hundred imperial guards stood guard outside the valley. All of their faces were filled with fatigue and helplessness. The warhorses had been abandoned several tens of leagues away. The mountain path was filled with huge, jagged rocks, and there was no way for the warhorses to advance. However, there was no other way. In order to protect Prince Xen Feng Jixing, they could only come here. Zhang Wei had a long beard. He had spent the entire summer and autumn under the sun, tanning like a piece of charcoal. He grabbed a water bag filled with wine and sat on a huge green rock. He twisted open the stopper and drank a big mouthful to his heart's content. Wiping his mouth, he laughed out loud and said, "This mountain is really a cool and relaxing place. It'd be even more beautiful if a few ladies could come and play with us." The chilly arch at the side wore a bitter expression and said, "Lord Zhang Wei, you're having a good time, but us brothers have nothing to do here all day. His Highness Prince Xian doesn't allow us to visit him either. I wonder how his cultivation is going." Zhang Wei raised his arm and said, "His Highness has already broken through the limits of the sacred heaven realm and is about to condense his godhood. This is a critical moment, and no one is allowed to disturb him. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless with my fists. Also, who's your name? Go down the mountain and help me get some wine. It'll be even better if you can bring a prostitute back." "Who's your name?" touched his nose and said, "His Highness Prince Xen has already given strict orders. Ever since Prince Qin and Her Highness Yin issued a new decree, the Empire's army is no longer allowed to keep concubines. It's the same for those brought back from outside. Lord Zhang Wei, you asked me to bring a woman back for you. Do you think that His Highness Prince Xian's fists will be ruthless when he comes out of seclusion?" Zhang Wei trembled and said calmly, Women. After venting, they'll feel dry and tasteless. It's fine if I don't want them. Then get a few men who are good at playing dice for old Zhang to go up the mountain." Oh, Lord Zhang Wei's taste has suddenly become very special. In the middle of the mountains, where the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was the most vigorous, the sky was covered with dark clouds. Bolts of lightning mixed with thunder descended from the sky. The angry thunder seemed to fall on the mountains, as if it wanted to tear the whole world apart. The phenomenon in the sky could only mean one thing. Another expert was going through the tribulation. Ascending from the divine heaven realm to the God realm was naturally one of the tribulations. If they succeeded, they would live as long as the world, but if they failed, their spiritual yuan would be damaged, and it would take many years before they could break through to the God realm again. On a round boulder, Feng Jixing sat in his golden armor. He raised his head to look at the strange phenomenon in the sky and couldn't help but sigh. "Oh my God, I never thought that I, Feng Jixing, would have such a day." The power in his body surged, and his eye seemed to have been pierced by a ray of light. A new domain was right in front of him. Whether Feng Jixing was willing or not, breaking through to the divine heaven realm was imminent. However, Lin Muyu had promised him that his forged immortal fate was still missing. Sigh, this unreliable brat, he could only rely on himself to break through and form a mortal fate. Slowly standing up, Feng Jixing fiercely stomped on the rock beneath his feet. Instantly, the mountain trembled violently. Feng Jixing then leaped into the air, the energy in his body completely erupting, quickly condensing into a storm that soared into the heavens, and Feng Jixing's body was at the core of the storm. That strong wind tore apart the plane's wall, opening the door to the heavenly realm. In the distance, many pavilions and buildings could be seen floating in midair, spirit cranes flying in the sky, auspicious clouds lingering around. What an auspicious and magnificent scene! Feng Jixing could already see the god realm. As long as he went forward, he would be able to reach the heaven realm, form a godhead, become one of the gods of the heaven realm, and leave this chaotic world. However, he couldn't. There were too many concerns, too many shackles, which made him like Lin Muyu, unable to leave even though he had a glimpse of the heavenly Tao. The wind and waves in his Yi were very strong, and a whirlpool started to wreak havoc. Suddenly, a strong sense of emptiness made Feng Jixing feel like he was about to be unable to bear it. His Yi was already empty, and there was a huge space for a spiritual fate to use. Either he had a ready-made godhead, or he could only form a new godhead. Feng Jixing stared at the sky and felt a little helpless. Mortal lattice, so be it. Mortal lattice could also be cultivated step by step, breaking through to heavenly Tao lattice, casted immortal lattice, and finally God lattice. However, at this moment, a small golden hole suddenly appeared in the sky, and a gentle and beautiful woman's voice followed. Feng Jixing, take it. This is the forged immortal fate that you asked for you. Feng Jixing was stunned. In the sky, the wind and thunder shook, and the horizon seemed to be torn apart. There was a continuous buzzing sound, and raging flames, thunder, and lightning raged in the sky. In the blink of an eye, the plane's wall was completely broken, and a godhead wrapped in raging flames and lightning came whistling like a meteorite. It was the forged immortal fate that the 7 luminaries demon emperor had created. In the sky, Xiao's voice came again, empty your mind, you don't have to do anything, just accept this godhead. Alright. Feng Jixing opened up his hands abruptly, and the wind and thunder in the sky kept on raging. The forged immortal fate came down from the sky with overwhelming divine prowess, gushing into Feng Jixing's body. Great waves soared up in his intense sea, and the power of the laws of raging flames, thunder, and gale raged out. Feng Jixing only had a mortal body, so how could he withstand such majestic powers? He cried out in agony. Oh my God, what's wrong with the sky? Zhang Wei tossed away the water bag in his hand and looked at the sky with his eyes and mouth agape. There was a person standing in the sky, and a myriad of divine powers kept on penetrating this person's body. Lightning and thunder rumbled like a heavenly tribulation. That's His Highness Prince Exen. The chiliarch at the side mumbled. It's the heavenly tribulation, it must be the heavenly tribulation. His Highness Prince Exen is going to become a god. That's right, he's going to become a god. The painful process lasted for close to half an hour, and Feng Jixing's intense sea was also in a mess from the bombardment. He floated in midair, on the verge of death, and his head felt as if it was going to explode. However, he was very sure of one thing. Although his intense sea was in a mess, it had been expanded by at least 10 times. A sparkling and translucent godhead floated in his intense sea, becoming the sole ruler of this domain. The forged immortal fate had been successfully integrated. Feng Jixing was overjoyed, and endless divine powers were emitted from his intense sea, flowing to various parts of his body. They were the divine powers of the laws of wind, thunder, and fire. At the same time, as he clenched his fist, waves of divine waves started to seethe. There was a total of 3 waves. Feng Jixing let out a low bellow, and streams of golden light instantly engulfed his body. His eyes were also covered with a layer of golden light. Both his senses and power had been enhanced by over 10 times. Is this the feeling of being a god? Feng Jixing stood in midair, and let out a long sigh, and said, "This is great." His senses were so sharp that he could even hear the conversation of Zhang Wei and the others from a few miles away. Another power also began to emerge from his intense sea, breaking through the void, one of the most basic powers that a god possessed. As if he was born with it, Feng Jixing's figure flashed, and with a swoosh he passed through a spatial wall and in the next moment, appeared in the air in front of Zhang Wei and the others. His armor had already been blasted to pieces, and his powerful muscles looked very straight. The power of wind and thunder circled around his arms, and his long hair gently swayed in the wind. Feng Jixing looked at everyone, and lightly smiled and said, "Now, we can go back." Zhang Wei was stunned. "Your Highness, you are now a god?" "Yes. Do you have any questions?" "Yes, I heard that gods can see through everything, and can see through people's hearts. Do you know what I am thinking right now?" The corner of Feng Jixing's mouth curled up. The whore of Sunset City? Oh my god, gods really can see through people's hearts. *T. I can't see through people's hearts, but do you think I don't know you well enough? Your Highness is wise. Let's go, follow me back. There is a group of mountain bandits occupying the mountains in the east of Sunset City, and they often attack the people nearby. When we return, immediately send 5,000 troops to eliminate them. We can't take the people's taxes and not do anything for them. Yes, your subordinate understands. Demon race in the Tongtian Gorge. The demon emperor sat on his throne with a dejected face, like a lonely king. With the death of the Saint Master, it was as if the demon emperor had lost an arm, and he no longer had the dignity and confidence of the past. And the most fatal thing was that the god King Yang Li had also died, which made the demon emperor even more terrified. Yang Li was one of the god kings that the god emperor of the Northern Heaven realm relied on the most, and was known as one of the experts with the most potential in the Northern Heaven realm. Now that Yang Li had died, the news would spread back to the Heaven realm, and the Northern Heaven realm would definitely take action. This was the thing that the demon emperor was most worried about. Although the demon race was strong, if the Northern Heaven realm sent hundreds and thousands of god-level rankers, then the hundreds of thousands of demon race armor demons would just be a decoration. "Father, it's late, rest early." Feng Ning held the lamp and said softly. Feng Yuan nodded as if he had aged a little, and said, "Ning, is there still no news from the Northern Heaven realm?" There was no news from Pei Sun, Huang Yi, and Zhu He after they returned to the Northern Heaven realm. "Oh, I know," Feng Yuan murmured. "Father can't sleep, you go to sleep first. If you see your sister's room light is still on, call Marshal Qianfeng over. Father has something to discuss with him." Not long after, Qianfeng, who was dressed neatly in the armor of a high-ranking officer of the demon race, walked in and knelt on the ground. "Father, why did you call me over so late at night? Is there anything?" A letter in Feng Yuan's hand floated over and landed in front of Qianfeng, and said, "This is a letter from the Eastern Sea, personally written by Marshal Long Qianlin of the Yihe country. Take a look." "A letter from Long Qianlin?" Qianfeng frowned. "Why did he send a letter?" "You'll know once you read it." Qianfeng opened the letter, and with just a glance, his face was already filled with shock, and said, "Yihe country still wants to join hands with us? Qin Yi, that old fox, can't be trusted at all." Chapter 677. How big is the Dragon Island? It can't support too many troops. The Yihe country has already used up all their trump cards. They don't have the qualifications to cooperate with us. Qianfeng said coldly. "No." The Demon King smiled. "Qianfeng, you should put down your airs as a marshal." "Father, what do you mean by that? Do you still not understand?" Feng Yuan said softly, "Our god race is no longer the same as before. A few years ago, we relied on the armor demons to sweep across half the continent. But now, the Empire has forged arrow boxes, ballistas, and magic crystal cannons to deal with our armor demon army. The moment Marshal Lei Chong died, the era of the armor demons has passed. Now, we are being suppressed by Lin Muyu in the Tong Tian Gorge. Think about it. If the Yihe country sends a certain number of troops to attack Lin Muyu's Dragon's Courage army from the north and south, what will the final result be?" Qianfeng frowned. "But the Yihe country's military strength is worrying." Feng Yuan said, "Although the Yihe country is not as strong as before, as long as they are willing to work hard, they will have at least 200,000 troops. What we need to do is to cut down trees in the Tong Tian Gorge and forge warships to send to the Dragon Island. As long as we provide the Dragon Island with 2,000 warships, Long Qianlin can send 200,000 Iha country's elite troops to Lin Muyu's back. The Iha country is at the end of the road. They won't lie to us and they won't dare to lie to us. When the time comes, Lin Muyu will not be defeated. Your son understands. I will obey father's orders. Right? We were lucky enough to obtain 3 complete magic crystal cannons in the Battle of Heaven Connect City. Send one of them to Dragon-Shaped Island. Long Qianlin's craftsmen are much smarter than ours. If they can develop new magic crystal cannons, perhaps there will be a new turning point in this war. Send the magic crystal cannon to the Dragon Island? Qianfeng was stunned. Who are we sending? I have a suitable candidate. Feng Yuan squinted his eyes and said with a smile, Ji Yao, the former first marshal of the Iha nation. He has been with us for many years and has become our dog. Tomorrow, Ji Yao will be appointed as the 4th marshal of the God clan. We will send him to the Iha nation and give him 3 battleships and 300 soldiers. Yes, I understand. It was late autumn, and the weather was getting colder and colder. Although the Ice Dragon's glacial pond was no longer as cold due to the death of the Azure Frost Dragon, it was still a good place to cultivate. After all, the Azure Frost Dragon had resided here for tens of thousands of years, so the frost spirit energy left behind was very abundant. Lin Muyu quietly lay in the depths of the pond, allowing the cold water to soak his body. Yang Li's frost godhead was above his body, and it was being refined by the refining cauldron's fire. The frost's divine power was like a ribbon that lingered around Lin Muyu and was then absorbed. Choosing such a place to cultivate was only to maximize the absorption of the godhead's power. Otherwise, if he cultivated in a volcanic area, more than half of the immortal forged godhead's power would be absorbed by the heat of the volcano. Within his body, the waves of the 19th layer of the heavenly abode kept attacking his body, causing Lin Muyu to feel an unbearable pain. However, he did not hesitate and continued to refine the Godhead's power to replenish the divine power in his body. Wave after wave rushed towards the entrance of his dantian at the fastest speed. As long as he broke through, he would be able to step into the 20th layer of the heavenly abode. Beside the shrubs above the glacial pond, Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful eyes stared at the ripples in the pond. She was worried and anxiously waiting. Xiao Shi, there's no need to be anxious. Chu Yao, who was at the side, faintly smiled. Yu has a sense of propriety when he cultivates. Don't worry. Besides, he chose this cold pond himself. There won't be any mistakes. Sister Chu Yao trusts him a lot, but this guy is so crazy when he cultivates. He will hurt his body at every turn. Tang Xiaoxi pursed her red lips and said, I followed him because I was too worried about him. It's fine. Chu Yao patted her shoulder lightly. At this moment, waves of air surged out of the pond. In the next moment, a golden light shot into the sky, causing the pond water to swirl rapidly. It was like a cold rain. When the pond water started to dissipate, a person slowly walked out of the mist. It was Lin Muyu. He was completely drenched, but his face was filled with excitement and joy. Without a doubt, he broke through again. Layers of waves of God surged on the surface of his body, a total of 20 layers. Did you succeed? Chu Yao asked. Lin Muyu nodded heavily. Tang Xiaoxi also smiled and said, I heard that some of the gods in the 20th grotto heaven of the immortal state have the ability to summon wind and rain. Mu, can you summon wind and rain now? Are you talking about the wind? Lin Muyu laughed and landed in front of Tang Xiaoxi. He raised an arm and moved his fingers slightly as if he was playing a piano. Suddenly, a strong wind rose on the plain behind him, causing the branches of the entire forest to flutter and countless leaves to fly in the wind. It was a spectacular scene. It was rare to see such a strong wind in late autumn. Really? Tang Xiaoxi opened her mouth wide. I have also stepped into the immortal state, but I don't have the ability to summon wind and rain. Lin Muyu glanced at her and said, but not all the immortal state experts are like you. As long as they transform, they can summon the waves of God from the 33rd grotto heaven. Also, their demonic powers are a little scary. Tang Xiaoxi blushed and said, this is an innate ability. I don't really understand it. As she spoke, Tang Xiaoxi naturally held onto Lin Muyu's arm. However, Lin Muyu withdrew his arm as if he was electrocuted. Ever since Qin Yin died, he was not used to any woman touching his body. Tang Xiaoxi was no exception. As a result, Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. The disappointment and sadness on her face was very obvious. "I'm sorry, Xiaoxi." Lin Muyu looked at her apologetically and said, I'm not mentally prepared for this. Let's talk about it after we find Xiao Yin." "Oh?" Tang Xiaoxi murmured. Chu Yao looked at Lin Muyu and then looked at Tang Xiaoxi. As if she could see through their thoughts, she smiled and said, "Actually, since ancient times, love has always been human nature. I know that you love Xiao Yin deeply, but you also like Xiaoxi, don't you? Now that I'm like this, I have a guilty conscience." Lin Muyu did not deny it. She looked up at the sky and said, "No one knows where Xiao Yin is suffering now." Chu Yao smiled and said, "If Xiao Yin comes back in the future, what will you do?" "I don't know. Let's do this." Chu Yao smiled and said, "As your elder sister, let me give you a piece of advice. Since we're all in the Qin Empire, let's not be bound by so many shackles. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Even if you marry Xiao Yin in the future, you can still take Xiaoxi as a concubine. But do you want to give such a beautiful Xiaoxi to others? Xiaoxi has so many pursuers that it's enough to break the door of Prince Qin's mansion." "I know." Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed and said, "It's just that I've never thought about taking a concubine." At the side, Tang Xiaoxi also blushed and said, "Sister Chu Yao, you're setting me up for marriage again." Chu Yao giggled and said, "How can I not be anxious when the three of you are so tangled up and cause the whole continent to be in such turmoil? Last time, Xiaoxi was jealous and caused the empire to fall. Next time, if Xiao Yin is jealous, I really don't know what kind of mess the three of you will make in this plane. So, for the sake of the people in the world and the billions of people in the shattered tripod world, you get rid of the evil for the people. In the future, when you find Xiao Yin, marry Xiao Yin and Xiaoxi together. What do you think?" Lin Muyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This, Tang Xiaoxi's face turned even redder. "Sister Chu Yao, why does marrying me become getting rid of the evil for the people? If you doesn't marry you, who would dare to marry you? You're so fierce, so willful, so unreasonable. Don't I have a semi-excellent score? Let me think." Chu Yao stammered for a while and said, "Other than being beautiful and having big breasts, I really don't have anything else." Tang Xiaoxi was so embarrassed that she wanted to crawl into a hole in the ground. Lin Muyu took a deep breath as if she had made a very big decision. She said, "I won't let the women I love wander from place to place. In the future, Xiaoxi, you and Xiao Yin will be the same. Stay by my side. As long as you can be together, what does marriage matter?" This time, Tang Xiaoxi nodded heavily and said, "Let's find Xiao Yin first." Although they didn't have any clues, at least their future goals were set. In the ghost's domain, the blood-red rocky mountain led to the end of purgatory, although no one knew where purgatory was. Qin Yin was like a group of ghosts, walking on this road known as the Yellow Springs. The ghosts around her were all dressed in rags, unlike her who could condense clothes from the divine power left in her soul. Among the three ghosts walking alongside Qin Yin, one was a hanged ghost with a long tongue sticking out. Another was a starving ghost with a pale face and bony bones. The last one was a ghost that died of old age and had dead fish eyes, looking as if he could die at any moment. Go. On the side, a ghost soldier brandished a leather whip that was attached to his spirit and lashed it heavily into the group of ghosts. He shouted, "Tonight, we'll reach the Bridge of Helplessness and drink Meng Po's soup. I'll teach you how to be a good ghost in your next life." Qin Yin raised her head and glanced at him. The ghost soldier was immediately angry. "Little girl, what are you looking at?" Qin Yin opened her palm, and a bright dragon crystal flashed continuously. She said, "What's wrong with looking at you?" The ghost soldier suddenly looked like a deflated ball. "Miss, you can look all you want. I'm ugly, just don't dirty your eyes." Chapter 678. In the north of the boundless heaven realm, there was a piece of barbarian land. After passing through several fierce storms, there was a lush forest. This forest was tens of thousands of miles wide. Behind the forest was a dense city. The city walls of these cities were inlaid with black gems. Dozens of divine guards were standing outside the city, holding sharp blades in their hands and treading on clouds. Blackrock City, the capital city of the Northern Heaven Realm, and also the residence of the Northern Heaven Realm's divine emperor Dongming. Shua shua, two figures flashed out of the spatial wall and appeared in the northern part of the forest. One of them was a beautiful young lady, while the other was a god realm general with a stern expression. This young lady looked extremely familiar. She was Ziyao, a subordinate of the seven luminaries demon emperor from the Eastern Heaven Realm. Blackrock City, we've arrived. Ziyao looked up at the vast heaven capital and said, Blackrock City stretches for thousands of miles and is known as the #1 city in the Heaven Realm. The Northern Heaven Realm's gods are famous for their ability to conquer and fight. We have to be careful. Sun Feng, no matter what the Northern Heaven Realm's divine emperor says, don't be impulsive. Listen to my orders. Yes, Lady Xiao. Sun Feng was the leader of the seven luminaries demon emperor's 10 great divine generals. His divine aura was restrained and his footsteps were covered with frost. He was obviously a divine emperor who was well versed in the law of ice. The two did not barge into the mountain gate. Ziyao leaped into the air and arrived in front of the giant gate of Blackrock City. She bowed respectfully and said, Eastern Heaven Realm's demon emperor, Ziyao and Sun Feng, request to see divine emperor Dongming. We have brought a gift from the demon emperor. On the city wall, a group of Northern Heaven Realms patrolling heavenly gods took out their halberds and swords and surrounded them. One of them, who was holding a battle axe, said, We, the Northern Heaven Realm and the Eastern Heaven, have always minded our own business. May I know why Fairy Ziyao has come to the Northern Heaven Realm this time? I've said it before. I request to see His Majesty the Divine Emperor and present a gift from the Demon Emperor. With that said, Ziyao's gaze turned cold and asked, What, is the Northern Heaven Realm going to shut us out? The gatekeeper laughed heartily. We wouldn't dare. Fairy Ziyao is the favorite of the seven luminaries Demon Emperor. She's an important figure in East Heaven. How would we dare to slight her? Please come in. I'll go report to His Majesty the Divine Emperor. Thank you. Ziyao and Sun Feng flew over the city wall side by side. Several patrolling Empyrean gods stabbed their weapons into the black curtain of light above the city and opened a door. After the guests passed through, the door immediately closed. The Obsidian Enchantment, the legendary enchantment that once trapped 3,000 god kings to death, was no joke. Inside the Blackrock City, the mountains stood in the air, and the pavilions were connected, forming the scene of a palace floating in the air. Ziyao and Sun Feng went straight to the main hall under the guidance of the guards. Along the way, countless Northern Heaven Realm gods stared at them covetously. Obviously, Ziyao and Sun Feng's clothes were very different from here. They were not Northern Heaven Realm gods. In front of the main hall, there were endless steps. The palace of the Northern Heaven Realm was also the most magnificent of the 4 heavenly courts. There were more than 10,000 steps, and it was unknown how long it would take to walk up the steps. Ziyao and Sun Feng looked at each other and smiled. Their figures turned and disappeared. In the next moment, they had already appeared in front of the main hall. Eastern Heaven Realm Fairy Ziyao and God Emperor Sun Feng have an audience. The loose immortals outside the main hall shouted loudly. Ziyao floated into the main hall. She saw that there were at least 1,000 glazed jade lamps hanging in the main hall, brightly illuminating the deep and serene main hall. The ground was made of a kind of mysterious black stone, smooth and resplendent. However, in the Heaven Realm, this kind of thing was almost like a decoration, because none of the gods here couldn't fly. Of course, except for the servants they raised. The so-called god servants were human cultivators whose cultivation had not reached the god realm, but were promoted to the Heaven Realm as an exception. They cultivated bitterly in the Heaven Realm, and at the same time, they had to take on the roles of craftsmen, farmers, fishermen, etc. Even though these people were the strongest in their own plane, in the god realm, they were the most lowly existences. The people who swept the floor outside were all god servants. At the end of the main hall, a person who was about 30 years old, wearing golden armor and a crown, sat on the throne. There was an indescribable heroic spirit between his brows, and behind him was a blood-red cloak that fluttered in the wind in the void space behind the throne. Dong Ming, the king of the Northern Heaven Realm, an ultimate expert with the cultivation of the 99th level of the God Realm Grotto Heaven. She once fought for 3 days and 3 nights in the desolate God Realm of the Northern Heaven Realm, killing dozens of God Emperor experts, and finally establishing the structure of the heavenly courts in the Northern Heaven Realm. If it wasn't for the existence of this ultimate expert, the Northern Heaven Realm would have long been swallowed by the other 3 great heaven realms. This little girl, Xiao, greets your Majesty God Emperor Dong Ming. Xiao gently bowed with her hands clasped in front of her. Sun Feng cupped his fists and said, "One of the god generals under the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, Sun Feng greets your Majesty God Emperor." Dong Ming nodded, and a ray of light shot out from her eyes. "I've long heard of your great name. I've long heard of the names of the 2 great generals under the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor of East Heaven, but I haven't seen them in person. It seems that your reputation is well-deserved. Tell me, what does the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor want to do by sending you to the Northern Heaven Realm?" "Present." "Present?" "Yes, your Majesty Dong Ming." Xiao waved her hand, and a wooden box appeared in her hand out of thin air. She smiled. "This is the present that the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor wanted me to bring to your Majesty Dong Ming." Dong Ming gently opened his hand, and the wooden box flew over and landed in his hand. Opening it, he saw a ginseng that was glowing with a faint blood light. Dong Ming's body trembled, and he said, "Desolate Field Blood Ginseng?" "That's right, it really is the Desolate Field Blood Ginseng." Xiao smiled slightly. This Desolate Field Blood Ginseng was found by the Demon Emperor in the Endless Wasteland. It contains the strongest and toughest power between heaven and earth. After eating it, it can greatly increase one's cultivation, so he ordered me to bring it here and present it to your Majesty Dong Ming. Dong Ming handed the Desolate Field Blood Ginseng to the divine servant maidservant at the side. Although the Desolate Field Blood Ginseng was a supreme treasure, it was only useful for divine king realm cultivators. As for divine emperors, they were already unable to refine too much divine power from the Desolate Field Blood Ginseng. However, the forces of East Heaven were getting stronger and stronger, and these 2 people couldn't afford to offend them. Dong Ming smiled and said, "Fairy Xiao, please convey my gratitude to the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. Men, bring the sea-splitting blade." Very quickly, 2 divinities carried a blade into the main hall. The blue sea storm swirled around the blade, and one could tell at a glance that it was not an ordinary weapon. Dong Ming grabbed the blade's hilt and gently waved it in the air. A cold light flashed, as if it was going to tear open a person's skin. Xiao and Sun Feng were both stunned. Who didn't know that Dong Ming's cultivation was amazing? But now it seemed that Dong Ming was even more powerful than the legend said. This sea-splitting blade was refined from the bone marrow of a giant blue sea beast. It can cleave through the waves and is always successful. I will present it to the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor as a gift in return. I hope Fairy Xiao will like it. Why would I? Xiao smiled slightly and signaled for Sun Feng to take the sea-splitting blade. She smiled and said, "This time, I have another matter to discuss with your Majesty Dong Ming." "Oh, what is it?" "Please speak directly." "It's like this." Xiao pondered for a while and said, "A few days ago, your Majesty Dong Ming sent Divine King Yang Li, Supreme Divinity Huang Yi, and others to the lower realm to go hunting in the Shattered Cauldron Realm, which is under the jurisdiction of the East Heaven Realm. The God-State cultivator Lin Muyu from the Shattered Cauldron Realm is the sworn brother of His Majesty Demon Emperor. Therefore, His Majesty Demon Emperor sent me here to ask your Majesty Dong Ming to be magnanimous and let Lin Muyu go." "Lin Muyu?" Dong Ming suddenly smiled and slowly sat back on the throne. A murderous intent shot out from her eyes. Yang Li was the most talented among the thousands of divine kings under me. Moreover, his divinity had been cultivated to the 3rd level. However, he died in the hands of Lin Muyu in the Shattered Cauldron realm. His divinity was also usurped. This is a disgrace to the North Heaven realm. I hope that the East Heaven will not interfere in this matter. This is a grudge between the North Heaven realm and the Shattered Cauldron realm. Your Majesty! Xiao smiled in a neither servile nor unyielding manner. The Shattered Cauldron realm is under the jurisdiction of the East Heaven realm. I hope that the North Heaven realm will not act stubbornly. You must know that the Demon Emperor is a sentimental person. Furthermore, he values his sworn brother, Lin Muyu, very much. So, Your Majesty, please think thrice before acting. Are you threatening me? Dong Ming's expression turned cold. She stood up. Instantly, the surrounding cold air became oppressive. Dong Ming, who possessed the Frost Master God's divinity, was the supreme ruler of the law of ice. The layers of cold air were like waves of frost air blowing against one's skin. It was unbearable. Even Sun Feng, who also cultivated the law of ice, could not help but find it hard to resist. Layers of golden air waves enshrouded Xiao's body. She stared fixedly at Dong Ming. With an abnormally calm expression, she smiled and said, "If Your Majesty insists on acting stubbornly, you can go ahead and try. Your Majesty and the Demon Emperor are both the supreme rulers of the 99 heavens. If you want to try the changes of the 7 luminary stars' transformation, you can go ahead and try." Dong Ming looked at the upright Xiao and couldn't help but be stunned. Then he laughed out loud and retracted all of his god power. He said, "As expected, the subordinates of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor are not easy to deal with. Fairy Xiao, I was only joking with you just now. Since Lin Muyu is the sworn brother of the Demon Emperor, I, Dong Ming, must give face to the Demon Emperor. Forget it, I will give up on the Shattered Cauldron realm. Let him be." "Thank you, Your Majesty Dong Ming." Xiao nodded her head cheerfully. "I will pass on Your Majesty's thanks to the Demon Emperor." In addition, the Eastern Heaven realm will strengthen their guard for a period of time and seal the gap in the shuttle plane. Your Majesty Dong Ming, please pass down an order to your subordinates. Don't easily descend into the Shattered Cauldron realm. Otherwise, they might die on the way. Dong Ming was startled. "I understand. Thank you for your kindness." "You're welcome. It's what I should do. I will take my leave now." "All right. Men, send off Fairy Xiao and Lord Sun Feng." After watching Xiao and Sun Feng leave, an old god emperor walked forward and said respectfully, "Your Majesty, is Yang Li going to die in vain? I heard that Lin Muyu is currently refining Yang Li's cast immortal lattice. This is simply an insult to our Northern Heaven realm. How can we not take revenge?" Dong Ming's eyes were cold. "Don't say any more. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor is too strong. The god emperors under him are more than twice the number of us. There's no need to mention this matter anymore. However, Lin Muyu's sovereign lattice will be ours sooner or later." Chapter 679. Roar Roar, I died such an unjust death. In the end, I'm still a virgin, kind-hearted ghost soldier. Please let me touch a woman. A female ghost would be good too. Don't hit me. Bastardly Xiaoyao, he actually dared to kill me. Damn it, I, Wang Zecheng, am talented and elegant, but I ended up like this. This is really infuriating. I don't want to die. I haven't found a boyfriend yet. On the Yellow Springs path, all the vengeful spirits wailed with pale faces. Very soon, their path would come to an end. They could only complain about their unwillingness and resentment when they were alive. The entire Yellow Springs path could be said to be filled with complaints. Among the crowd, Qin Yin wore a long white dress with golden edges. She silently followed the flow of the crowd. Looking at the ugly old woman in front of her who was distributing Meng Po's soup, Qin Yin couldn't help but feel lost. She knew that drinking this bowl of Meng Po's soup meant saying goodbye to the past. However, how could Qin Yin be willing? Once she drank this bowl of soup, Lin Muyu might not be able to find her again. Absolutely not. The procession moved slowly, but it was still moving. One by one, the ghosts quieted down after drinking Granny Meng's soup. They no longer had any complaints, and each of them was at ease like an enlightened monk. However, the man in the tattered suit in front of Qin Yin, who called himself Wang Zecheng, slammed his palm on Granny Meng's table and shouted sternly, "Damned old hag, do you know who I am? How dare you force me to drink your cat's urine? Dream on. I am Wang Zecheng, the president of the Buddhist Guild's China region." Mengpa raised her head. Her ugly face was full of wrinkles, like many earthworms. She suddenly smiled, revealing a few sparse teeth, and said, "Dijiang, come, hang this nuisance up for me. Whip him 10,000 times a day until his soul scatters. I want to see who still dares to challenge me in my territory." "You dare? I have tens of thousands of artificials under me. When they all come down together, I'll kill you, stinking old hag." Wang Zecheng wanted to scream again, but suddenly, a ghost general rushed over like a ghost and pierced his chest with a spear. This spear was specially made and was effective against ghosts. Wang Zecheng's chest was pierced through, crackling with lightning. He screamed in pain, and in the blink of an eye he was hung on the bridge of helplessness. Whips started to whip him in a rhythmic manner. Finally, it was Qin Yin's turn. A ghost servant brought the bowl of Mengpo's soup to Qin Yin and said coldly, "Drink it. You won't feel any pain after drinking it." Qin Yin looked at him quietly and shook her head. "What, you don't want to drink?" Mengpa raised her head again and looked at Qin Yin's beautiful face. With a face full of disgust, she said, "I hate beautiful women the most in my life. Come, hold her down and make her drink this bowl of Mengpo's soup. In her next life, I'll let her reincarnate as a prostitute." Looking at Mengpo's evil smile, Qin Yin couldn't help but feel a wave of disgust. She didn't look like she was going to yield. Instead, she looked at Mengpo's bridge. This bridge wasn't very thick. Although it was paved with stone slabs, she should be able to destroy it with her remaining divine power. Thus, her feet suddenly sank, and with a bang, she stepped through the bridge of helplessness. Her body fell into the icy river with a splash. Like a mermaid, she twisted her body and swam downstream. Mengpa flew into a rage. "Io, this little bitch actually broke the bridge of helplessness. She's really going against the heavens. What are you stupid ghost generals still looking at? Go and catch her. If you keep staring, I'll make sure you all suffer the consequences. Don't be afraid of her. Even if she was a god when she was alive, she doesn't even have 10% of her power in our ghost domain. Catch her. If you can't, kill her on the spot and destroy her soul." "Yes, Madam Mengpa." The group of ghost generals nodded and flew into the blood-red ghost domain. "Ghost tongues, whip the river for me." In the air, a ghost general roared. Suddenly, black, soft tongues stretched out from the ground on both sides of the river and lashed at the water like whips. Amidst the crackling sounds, the water splashed in all directions. Wah! Qin Yin's spirit body was hit on the back by the ghost tongues. She felt a burning pain, but there was nothing she could do. After entering this ghost domain, the dragon crystal seemed to be unable to exert any power, let alone condense a dragon crystal to protect her body. The burning pain on her back was getting worse and worse. She felt like she was bleeding. The cold river water poured over her wound, and she almost fainted from the pain. However, Qin Yin did not cry out in pain. She did not even dare to stick her head out. She just swam along the riverbed and swam downstream. It was only when the sound above her had died down that she slowly surfaced. She saw that her surroundings were filled with green light, and green mushrooms were growing on the rock walls. Suddenly, she felt extremely hungry. "Be more." A voice came from her heart. Qin Yin bit her lip and reached out to pluck a mushroom. A fragrant smell came from it, like the smell of wheat on bread. She took a big bite. It smelled so good. However, after Qin Yin ate a mushroom, the ghost general's voices came from afar. "Damn it, that ghost has eaten the smoked mushroom. Go and catch her. Don't let her regain her strength. Otherwise, we won't be able to defeat her." Qin Yin was stunned. Could these mushrooms be able to restore her strength? Without hesitation, She plucked all the mushrooms and stuffed them in her mouth. Then, she dived into the water and continued swimming along the riverbed. At the same time, the divine power in her body seemed to have recovered to about 20%. This made Qin Yin ecstatic. She didn't want to drink the soup of Mengpe. She didn't want to be reincarnated as a stranger. The people far away were still waiting for her to go back. A few ghost generals carried their spears and moved quickly along the river. Their faces were ashen. At this moment, the long cry of a beast suddenly came from the sky. A ghost soldier riding a black bone dragon looked at them coldly. The long whip in his hand flashed with purple lightning. His voice was very cold. "Where did that female ghost go?" "We lost her, Lord Ghost Dragon Chief. A bunch of trash." The Ghost Dragon Chief suddenly raised his hand and whipped the group of ghost generals violently. He only stopped after leaving a bloody mark on them. He said, "What are you waiting for? Continue to look for her." The ghost dragon leader snorted coldly and urged the ugly ghost dragon to fly into the sky. The whip in his hand flickered with lightning, and he began to patrol the river. As long as Qin Yin appeared, she would be discovered immediately. At the bottom of the river, Qin Yin looked up at the two ghost dragon leaders in the air and could not help but secretly complain. The ghost dragon leader was the leader of the ghost domain and could use 100% of his strength in the ghost domain. However, Qin Yin could only use 20% of her strength. Moreover, she was only an ultimate god when she was alive. How could she be a match for the two ghost dragon leaders? The only thing she could do now was to escape for a while. In short, she did not want to drink Mengpo's soup. In the East Heaven, Qin Yin's beautiful face was enshrouded in the water of the heavenly pond. The 7 luminaries demon emperor brought a few god emperors to observe from the side. At that moment, Xiao and Sun Feng walked over. The 7 luminaries demon emperor asked right away, "Is it done?" "It's done. This is Dong Ming's return gift, the sea-cleaving saber." "Tisita, a broken saber." The 7 luminaries demon emperor snorted coldly. "Sun Feng, this sea-cleaving saber is yours." Sun Feng was ecstatic. "Thank you, demon emperor." Xiao's gaze fell on the scene of the ghost domain in the heavenly pond. She could not help but be stunned. Did Qin Yin reincarnate into the ghost path? Oh my god, what did she do to be chased by the ghost dragon leader? The 7 luminaries demon emperor sighed and said, "This girl crossed the bridge of helplessness." Xiao burst into laughter. "Sure enough, you're worthy of being the girl that IU likes." Hee hee, I'm dying of laughter. This time, Mengpe, that old and ugly woman, is going to be furious. The 7 luminaries demon emperor was speechless. Don't forget your identity as a god emperor. How can you be calculative with a mere Mengpe? I'm sorry, demon emperor, I misspoke. Xiao regained her composure. She looked at the scene in the heavenly pond again and said, "Demon emperor, Qin Yin hasn't forgotten the past. She still remembers you?" "Yes, this is the reason why she is unwilling to drink Mengpo's soup." As he spoke, the 7 luminaries demon emperor clenched his fist and said, "No, you misses her so much. While Qin Yin still remembers the past, I must help you meet her." "Don't, demon emperor," Xiao murmured. "The laws of the 3 realms cannot be easily violated. We are the gods of the heavenly realm and have enjoyed the divine power of the heavenly realm for many years. The laws set by the gods of the heavenly realm is that we cannot enter the ghost domain without permission, just like how the ghosts and gods of the ghost domain cannot enter the heavenly realm. Otherwise, they will be severely punished. Moreover, the 3 ghost emperors of the ghost domain are not easy to deal with. It's best that we don't provoke them. This won't do, that won't do. What should we do then?" The 7 luminaries demon emperor gritted his teeth and said, "If they really force me, I will kill my way into the ghost domain and slaughter the 3 ghost emperors. Let's see if they are easy to deal with." Sun Feng clenched his fist and said, "I am willing to follow the demon emperor into the ghost domain." "Don't cause trouble." Xiao glared at Sun Feng and said, "Demon emperor, I have a way to let you meet Qin Yin, but we won't trigger the heavenly law." "Say it." Yu is a god of the mortal world and is not restricted by the heavenly law. We can point a way for you to enter the ghost domain and find Qin Yin. Wouldn't that be the best of both worlds? That's right, why didn't I think of this? The 7 luminaries demon emperor clenched his fist, his face full of joy. You're confused because you care too much. Ziyao glared at him and said, I really don't know what you owe Lin Muyu in your past life. For him, we have put in so much effort. Ah, you're still laughing? Do you know how to enter the ghost domain from the mortal world? I don't. Then why are you laughing? Don't I have you? Ziyao was so angry that her shoulders trembled. I am the overgod of the law of life, and I am actually helping you sneak into the ghost domain. If this gets out, how am I going to show my face in the divine realm? Chapter 680. The captaincy of the Longdan army camp had all gathered in the great hall of King Qin's residence in Tongtian City. A 10-meter-long sand table was placed in the center of the great hall. The coastline of the entire empire was outlined on it, and all the ports were marked. However, the empire had always been good at fighting on land and didn't have a decent navy. Tang Xiaoxi and Chu Yao stood beside Lin Muyu and watched her study the terrain quietly. Greetings, Princess Shi. Greetings, Chief Deacon Chu Yao. Wei Chou and Situ Sin bowed respectfully. No need to be so polite. Tang Xiaoxi and Chu Yao nodded in unison. Wei Chou walked forward and said, Your Highness, the commander of the Navy, Marquis Vassi, Bailey Tsong, will arrive at Tongtian City in about 3 days. Should we wait for Lord Bailey Tsong to arrive before discussing the matter of expanding the Navy? No need. Lin Muyu shook her head. I want to expand the navy of the Dragon's Courage Legion, not the Empire's navy. When Bailey Tsong arrives, we only need him to provide the warships built by the Ministry of Works. Yes. At the side, Fengxi asked in confusion, Your Highness, the Empire has always fought on land. Why is Your Highness thinking of the sea? Could it be? Your Highness is the same as His Highness Feng Jixing, wanting to attack the dragon-shaped island and eradicate the last remnants of the Iha nation? No, I don't want to kill them all. I just want to... Lin Muyu pointed to the east of the sand table and said, No one has been to this part of the sea before, and no one knows what's there. However, I have to consider the Empire and be prepared for the enemy on the other side of the sea. Moreover, aren't the demon race also building warships on a large scale on the east side of the Tongtian Gorge? We must be on guard as soon as possible. Wei Chou said, How should we plan it specifically? Lin Muyu gently moved her finger along the coastline and said, Deploy a large number of soldiers from Qihai Province, Yunzhong Province, and Lingnan to guard the coastline. Set up a beacon tower every 5 miles and a harbor every 100 miles. Build docks and warships to keep the coastline firmly in the hands of the Qin Empire. In addition, increase the speed of building magic crystal cannons. If there are enemies on the sea, use the giant cannons to entertain them. Wei Chou narrowed his eyes and said, But Your Highness, we have almost searched out all the magic crystals in the Empire. On this continent, more than 80% of the production of magic crystals comes from the underground mountain range of the sky-piercing gorge. I'm afraid that if we don't defeat the demons, we won't be able to obtain more magic crystals. Got it. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and felt a little annoyed. As the king of Qin dynasty, there were naturally more things to worry about. These trivial things were even more troublesome than fighting the demons. At this moment, suddenly there was a noise from outside. Your Highness, there is a woman asking to see you. But, Your Highness, this woman is going to force her way in. Be careful, Your Highness. We can't hold her down. Wei Chou and Citizen drew their swords almost at the same time. They didn't know who had eaten a bear's heart and leopard's heart to break into King Qin's mansion. However, Lin Muyu didn't take any action. She just slightly raised the corner of her mouth and said, Let her in. In fact, Lin Muyu could already feel the divine power of life permeating all things. It was none other than the overgod of the law of life, Fairy Ziyao. Ziyao wore a green dress that was as spotless as a hibiscus on the surface of the water. She floated into the main hall of King Qin's mansion. Her dress fluttered in the wind, and a powerful domain descended in the surroundings. Wei Chou, Sidu Sen, and the others didn't even have the strength to move. Those with slightly lower cultivation levels felt a little suffocated. Xiao, have mercy. They are all my people. Lin Muyu smiled. Xiao giggled. I'm not going to touch them, you don't have to worry. As she spoke, Xiao completely withdrew the aura of her domain and walked towards Lin Muyu like a fairy that had descended from the mortal world. She smiled faintly and asked, How have you been recently? Can't you all spy on me through the heavenly lake? As a god, Lin Muyu could still sense when she was being spied on. Xiao was a little embarrassed. She said, This is also for your safety. You don't know, but because of you, almost all 4 heavenly realms have been affected. I know, thank you. Lin Muyu nodded. Although the sovereign persona that she had awakened in her EC could bring her endless potential and power, it also meant that there were more risks involved. After all, a godhead was something that could be seized and taken for oneself. Who wouldn't want it? Xiao smiled affectionately. How have you been these days? Yes, thank you for the red spider lily essence that you gave me last time. Without it, I'm afraid that I would still be stuck in the 11th heaven. Hee, don't mention it. We're all family. Xiao giggled, and she had the feeling of stunning everyone with a sweet smile, causing Wei Chou, Sidu Sen, and the others to be dumbstruck and almost drool. For you. Tang Xiaoxi clenched her fists and came to Lin Muyu's side. She stood side by side with Lin Muyu and hid the fire divine power in her body. She looked at Xiao with hostility. After all, there were not many women who could talk and laugh with Lin Muyu. This woman was not simple, and it made Tang Xiaoxi feel very threatened. Chu Yao also frowned and said, Who is this? How dare you trespass into King Qin's mansion? You seem to be familiar with you. Trespass into King Qin's mansion? Xiao puffed out her breasts, which were at least 34C, and proudly said, I am the guardian of the God Realm's northern territory, the wielder of the law of life, and the second strongest God Emperor in the Eastern Heaven Realm. May I ask these 2 beautiful ladies, do I, Xiao, have the qualifications to enter King Qin's mansion? Tang Xiaoxi's and Chu Yao's beautiful faces turned pale. They originally thought that the woman in front of them was very powerful. She might be a God King Realm expert, just like Ouyang Yan. They didn't expect her to be a God Emperor Realm expert. Such a person could probably destroy half of the Shattered Cauldron Realm by herself, right? After all, she was already a ruler of a law. Lin Muyu snickered. She looked at the 2 beauties beside her and said with a heartless smile, Xiao Shi, are you 2 jealous? Tang Xiaoxi blushed and said, I just thought highly of you before Xiao Yin returned. Don't think too much, I will not be jealous. Chu Yao was also speechless. Yeah, we just thought highly of you on behalf of Xiao Yin. Who knew what they were thinking? In any case, Lin Muyu was not in the mood to figure it out. He was more concerned about the reason why Xiao came down from the heaven realm. The gods of the divine realm would lose their cultivation when they flew down to the mortal world. This should be the second time that Xiao came to the Shattered Cauldron world. Something big must have happened. Xiao, please take a seat. Lin Muyu pulled out a chair and said respectfully. Xiao sat down quietly. At this time, Ouyang Yan walked over from afar and bowed. She said, Ouyang Yan greets God Emperor Xiao. No need to be so polite. Xiao glanced at it and already knew what was going on. She smiled and said, Looks like it's Ayu who helped you condense a new godhead. Although it's a heavenly Tao godhead, with your comprehension ability towards flames, I believe that in a few years, this godhead will transform into a caste immortal godhead. Ouyang Yan, at that time, we each served different masters and seized your godhead. You won't blame us, right? Winner takes all. Now that Demon Emperor is the ruler of East Heaven, I naturally won't say anything. Moreover, I am now His Highness King Qin's person, and God Emperor Xiao is His Highness' friend, so, that's good, that's good. No need to be so polite. I still have things to say to you. Those unrelated people, please leave first. Xiao raised her head and looked at everyone. Situ-san touched his nose and said, I am the deputy general manager of the Longdan army camp. Do I count as unrelated people? Wei Cho patted his shoulder. We are both unrelated people. Hurry up and leave. Give yourself some face. Don't be embarrassed if you are chased out. Yeah, you are Duke Wei, one of the 4 Grand Dukes of the Empire. If you are chased out, it will be more embarrassing than me. Shut up and leave. Not long after, only Ziyao, Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi, and Chu Yao were left in the hall. The 2 little beauties didn't want to leave, but there was nothing she could do. Ziyao couldn't really drive them away. After all, Ziyao knew that these 2 were Lin Muyu's confidants. She couldn't do it. All right. Ziyao stood up and looked deeply at Tang Xiaoxi. Then she said, we found Qin Yin's whereabouts. What? Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi exclaimed in shock. Ziyao said, do you know what Xiao Yin is going through? I don't know. You only know to look for her everywhere, but you don't know where she is. Ziyao sighed and said, after Xiao Yin's overgod godhead died, I protected her 3 souls and 6 spirits from dispersing and escaped into the 6 paths of reincarnation. The first reincarnation cycle is the human path. The girl you saved in the Crimson Abyss, Li Minya, is Qin Yin's reincarnation. That girl. Lin Muyu's heart was filled with mixed feelings. She stood there dejectedly and recalled everything that happened in the Crimson Abyss. It was as if she could hear the girl's crisp voice again. Immortal, are you really omnipotent? At the thought of this, Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a lump in her throat and almost burst into tears. She murmured, why didn't you tell me earlier? So what if I told you? The cause and effect have already been decided. Ziyao said indifferently, Xiao Yin's second reincarnation cycle is the animal path. She turned into a green swan to protect you, that green feather. Green feather. After Green Feather's death, Xiao Yin's soul once again entered the cycle of reincarnation, and this time, it is the ghost path. Ziyao looked at Lin Muyu and said, do you know why I came to find you? I want to go to the ghost path and find Xiao Yin. That's right. Ziyao nodded and said, in this life, Xiao Yin has entered the ghost path, and she refused to drink Meng Po's soup, so she still retains her memories of the past. This is a great chance for you to see her. If you miss this life, who knows how many years it will be before you can see her again. Bring me to see her. Lin Muyu's voice was soft but indescribably powerful. Chapter 681. Ziyao sat down quietly and said softly, I'm a god of the heavenly realm. Restricted by the laws of the divine realm, the gods of the heavenly realm are not allowed to enter the ghost's domain. This is an order set hundreds of thousands of years ago, so I can't break this order. This time, I can only send you into the ghost's domain. As for how to find Xiao Yin, it's up to you. Don't worry. Lin Muyu nodded, her eyes full of determination. You're a god of the lower realm, so you're not restricted by the order of the divine realm. However, if you meet the 3 ghost emperors in the ghost's domain, it's best to avoid them. They're very strong, so you must be careful. Beside her, Tang Xiaoxi looked at her and asked, Sister Ziyao, can I go with Mu? Oh, why do you want to go? Ziyao looked at her with a smile. It was probably because Tang Xiaoxi killed Qin Yin, which caused great harm to Lin Muyu and Qin Yin, so Ziyao didn't have a good impression of Tang Xiaoxi. She said, You killed Qin Yin. I don't need to remind you, do I? I'll bear the consequences of my own actions. Tang Xiaoxi said softly. No need. Ziyao said, if you want to make up for your guilt towards Qin Yin, you'll have plenty of opportunities in the future. But this time, only you can go alone, because I can only send one person into the ghost domain at a time. Otherwise, the loss of divine power will be too great. It's not something that can be replenished by refining the spiritual qi of the divine realm. Lin Mu said, Xiao Shi, stay in this plane and wait for me to come back. If you really feel guilty, wait for Xiao Yin to come back and tell her personally. Let me finish this matter alone. Tang Xiaoxi stood there silently. Her heart was in a mess. She wanted to make up for the mistake she had made, but no one gave her the chance. Chu Yao gently hugged Tang Xiaoxi's shoulder and said, "Shao Shi, listen to you. We'll just wait here quietly for his return. Moreover, after you leaves, there will be no one to manage the situation in Lingdong and Tongtian provinces. You are the princess of Fugua. You should stay and manage the situation. This is what you should do." Tang Xiaoxi nodded. "I know I will. Mu, you must bring Xiao Yin back. As long as she is willing to forgive me, I will do anything." "No, it won't be that easy for Xiao Yin to come back." Ziyao broke Tang Xiaoxi's dream and said, "This trip to Ghost Domain is only for you and Xiao Yin to meet, but it won't change the process of Xiao Yin's reincarnation. I think you must want to see Xiao Yin, and Xiao Yin also wants to see you. If we forcibly bring Xiao Yin out of Ghost Domain, she will just be a soul without a body. Sooner or later, her soul will turn into ashes. Only after crossing the 6 realms and attaining enlightenment will she be able to reconstruct her divine personality and body." Tang Xiaoxi was stunned and didn't know what to say. Lin Muyu took a deep look at her, held her shoulder, and said, "Shao Shi, if you want to make it up to Xiao Yin, then help her guard the mountains and rivers that belong to her, okay? After you were abducted to the Devil Clan, the Demon Clan in the Forest of Infinity has been out of the control of the Empire. They have repeatedly harassed the Empire's garrison in the Demon Suppressing Pass. You still need to go to the peace of the Western region. Only when you go, Ling Hu Yen and others in the Forest of Infinity will yield to the control of the Qin Empire." Tang Xiaoxi nodded gently. "I will move. You must be careful when you go to Ghost Domain. Come back alive to see me and Sister Chu Yao." "I know. Then, let's get ready to go." Ziyao smiled faintly and said, "The gate of Ghost Domain will open at midnight, but before that, we have to find a place of extreme Yin so that we can cut through the bit wall and send you to Ghost Domain." "A place of extreme Yin?" Lin Muyu was stunned. Chu Yao and Tang Xiaoxi were also at a loss. A place of extreme Yin was rarely heard of. At this moment, Sidusen's voice came from outside the door. "Your Highness, there is a mass grave 10 miles southeast of Tongtian City. It is said that ghosts often appear at night. That place should be regarded as a place of extreme Yin. Have you been eavesdropping?" Lin Muyu asked. "Oh, I'm just passing by. I'll take my leave now." Ziyao chuckled and said, "Then let's go. We'll find that mass grave and wait until midnight to cross the bit wall." But Lin Muyu once again asked Chu Yao and Tang Xiaoxi to stay behind to take charge of the situation and then left Tongtian City with Ziyao. Lin Muyu went first. After breaking the void, she was already 10 miles away from the city, while Ziyao quickly broke the space wall and followed Lin Muyu's aura. Under the setting sun, the two flew side by side over the jungle, looking for the mass grave that Situ Sen had mentioned. After nearly an hour, they finally found it. It was a densely packed grave, about 2 or 3 miles away from the nearest village. Most of the poor people in Tongtian City, as well as those who died in the war, were buried here. Lin Muyu floated to the ground. She shook her palm gently and spat out a soft force, shattering the bodies of 2 wild dogs that were tearing apart a rotten corpse not far away. A dignified god actually spends her energy on this kind of place. Ziyao smiled faintly. With a flip of her palm, raging flames burned the rotting corpse into ashes. She raised her palm, and a gust of wind blew, instantly turning the corpse into ashes. Although Ziyao was the ruler of the life law, she was also well versed in the power of the other laws. Most God Emperor level experts had this ability. Lin Muyu sat down on a rock under a vigorous old pine tree, pulled out the star's sword, and carefully wiped it. Ziyao sat at the side with interest and said with a smile, "There should be a story behind this star's sword, right?" Lin Muyu nodded. "Back when I was in Lanyan City, I followed an elder to learn the imperial sword technique. This star's sword was his favorite collection. Later on, the Iha country was in turmoil and they snatched this sword away. They also killed my teacher and cast his soul into the sword to become the sword's soul. This is the origin of this sword." "Oh," Ziyao nodded and said, Although the God realm has established the order of the three realms, the human realm is still in constant war. Many living beings are suffering from the chaos of war. It seems that we gods can only enjoy the incense offered by the living beings, but we can't do anything for the human realm. Lin Muyu smiled and asked, Xiao, how long have you ascended? Counting carefully, it has been 3,000 years. Xiao smiled and said, Why are you suddenly asking me about this? Big sister of 3,000 years. Lin Muyu held back her laughter and said, Tell me what the God realm is like? Xiao said, The God realm is just a saying. In other words, it is just a spatial plane with abundant spiritual energy. The God realm is also known as the myriad realms and stars. The gods travel through it happily. The myriad realms and stars are divided into the east, south, west, and north star regions, which are ruled by 4 supreme god emperors. The east heaven is currently controlled by the demon emperor. There are nearly 1,000 god emperors, more than 10,000 god kings, and countless supreme gods. The east heaven has more than 4,000 planes under its jurisdiction. The shattered cauldron realm where you are and the earth where you were originally from are 2 of the planes. The gods of the heaven realm rely on the power of faith in the planes to absorb divine power and control the 3 realms, but they can't do anything about it. There are more than 4,000 planes like the shattered cauldron realm. Yes, this is still considered a small number. There are at least 30,000 such planes in the 4 great celestial realms. Outside the 4 great celestial realms, there is the even more vast heaven beyond heaven. It is said that there are many prehistoric ancient gods there, but we still don't know about it. The gods who went to the heaven beyond heaven have never returned. As she spoke, Xiao flipped her hair and her eyes were full of yearning. She said, It must be a paradise, right? Paradise? Lin Muyu smiled meaningfully. It is probably a world where the strong prey on the weak? What do you yearn for? Xiao asked with a smile. I want to find Shaoyin and live my current life. Or I want to live in seclusion in the mountains and plant peach blossoms and pear blossoms. I want to stand aloof from worldly affairs and cultivate in peace. Xiao actually felt slightly yearning for it as well, and the corners of her mouth curled into a happy smile as she said, Hearing you say that, even I feel so envious. It's just that, there doesn't seem to be anyone that's willing to give me such a life. Truthfully speaking, I'm slightly envious of little girls like little Yin and little Shi. Why are you jealous? Lin Muyu said in a self-deprecating manner. I can't even protect the woman I love. Sometimes I feel that I am really useless. What do you mean by useless? Xiao's beautiful eyes narrowed as she said, How old are you? You stepped into the God realm at the mere age of 34 and cultivated the 20th layer of heavenly abode. Even in the entire divine world, there aren't many who can do that. You're still not satisfied. When I was your age, I was only a saint realm. Is that so? Lin Muyu looked at Xiao's appearance and said, Sister Xiao, when you stepped into the saint realm, you were 25 at most. Looking at your appearance now, you should have entered the immortal state long ago. I only stepped into the saint realm at the age of 29. Xiao pursed her lips and said, If it wasn't for my natural beauty, I am afraid I would be an old woman by now. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Brat, what are you laughing at? Xiao was really acting like a big sister. Lin Muyu smiled and said, Tell me your story. Sister Xiao, what were you like in the past? In the past? Xiao recalled and said, I was born on a deserted planet. That plane was very polluted and monsters ran amok. When I was 7, my parents were killed by monsters. Later, I cultivated with my uncle and he taught me martial arts. Then, when I was 20, my uncle was killed by a monster during a hunting mission. After that, things became clear. I stepped into the saint realm at the age of 29, stepped into the immortal state at the age of 62, and became an emperor god 1,000 years later. I defeated all the monsters in that plane with my own strength and was worshipped as a goddess. After that, my family and friends grew old and died one by one. I got bored and ascended to the immortal state. Lin Muyu, why aren't you talking? Xiao murmured. Lin Muyu smiled and said, "You look gentle and weak, but in the past, you were a queen and a tough woman. I was just in a daze to show my respect." Xiao smiled and said, "You are quite interesting. No wonder you are so popular with girls." "Is that so?" "Yes." Xiao looked around and said, "Start a fire and roast some food. You may not be able to have a good meal after you go to Ghost's domain. Before that, you should rest up." That you're tuning in to the Wandering Hero YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.